Hey everybody, welcome to the Sunday show, right here on the line. I know we had some technical issues getting started with vertical video and audio and whatever got broken, and I think I saw on YouTube next week's The Hang Up start just a few minutes ago for like 2 minutes, which was extra funny because that means that Arden is in there scrambling, and I think it's worth pointing out that our wonderful producer down the hall is just absolutely killing it, adding in the virtual video, doing all kinds of work, making all the shows and everything happen. If you're in chat right now, you need to put a big W for Arden. Woot. Hey, Paul, how are you?
I am recovering from a bit of a bad health weekend, so I am excited to be here to kick off my healthy part of the week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you are recovering. That's always good. I've been okay after bruising or cracking a rib, whichever the case is, and being essentially down for like a month where I was not able to move particularly well. I'm doing really good now.
Yay.
So for those who don't know, this is one of the mini call-in shows on the line, but this is the premier Sunday one. So if you just got out from your after church lunch and dinner and stumbled across this, hi, welcome. You can call in and tell us about what you learned in church today and why it's of value to us. You can try to defend your God belief, your supernatural beliefs, explain what we missed, because you're talking to two atheists who are former believers, coming from very different backgrounds, and yet very different within the realm of Christianity, I guess, is just to remind people there's a broad spectrum there.
We're not the gatekeeper of who's a Christian and who's not.
Yep. And
but we used to be, which is funny.
We definitely were, and you were not, and I was
not. That's right.
It reminds me very much. I mean, I pointed out the Pope the other day is I think the best Pope ever. I'm still going to fault him for being the Pope and being head of a criminal organization, but maybe he'll change that. Maybe he's a good enough man, and he seems to be. He's going head to head with Trump, who evidently woke up on the wrong side of the Strait of Hormuz again, and is now once again threatening to bomb everything under the sun. And literally he typed "No more Mr. Nice Guy." So for those of us who were like, oh, we're approaching a massive, worldwide military incident, and then, oh, we'll back off. Oh, we're approaching again. Oh, we'll back off. Well, welcome to round 3. But this is not the show about politics, even though in some senses, what we're looking for is a justification to believe something that definitely impacts people's politics. And right now, Christians in particular, and by that I don't just mean like former or Southern Baptist like I used to be, or Amish, Mennonite, Presbyterian, Methodist, let's just make the long list, or Catholics, Protestant, Catholic, whatever. I don't just mean that we're trying to find out, what the justification is. There's a backlash from different groups. There are some that are, yes, I stand with. I even saw a post, I kid you not, from someone saying, I'm a 35-year-old lifelong Catholic. Nobody speaks for me. I stand with the United States. I stand with the president. And I do not stand with Pope Leo. He does not represent me, and he does not represent the Catholic Church. And I was like, that's literally his job, is to represent the Catholic Church. Somehow wow. You think I'm glad you put yourself above the Pope. I put myself above the Pope. However, the Pope may be a nicer, better person than I am, irrespective of the Catholicism. So if you have good reason out there to believe that Paul and I have missed something in our excursions and explorations surrounding religion, did we both grow up in just the wrong church and you got the right one? Cool. Call in and defend all that. So apart from recovering from illness, what else have you been working on?
I've been in my season of talking to scholars, and I finally got to talk to John Collins, who's one of the foremost scholars on Judaism. Before in the like between the testaments, and so I'm geeking out on that. I know most of my viewers don't really care about that, but it's been been exciting for me to do that research because I still want to learn, right? I took so much on authority when
Yeah.
I was a believer. That was the way my church was structured. It was a top-down church, not dissimilar to the Catholics in its own weird way. And so so there's so many ideas about there that I was not exposed to, and I was guilty of out outsourcing my thinking
Yeah.
to my pastor. They seemed so confident that they had it handled. It's kind of like, I'm in a constant feud with Gary Habermas, who's written his 4,000 page magnum opus on the resurrection, and I'm constantly now seeing I can see it on pastors' bookshelves on YouTube, right? I see the book there, and what they're doing is they're just literally pointing, "Hey, there's 4,000 pages over there. What do you got to say about that?" And it's like, well, did you read them? No one does, and so that's the background I came out of, and so I'm just excited to learn about all these things, even these aspects of religion that, while I don't believe it anymore, man, it sure is nice to know what was the first century like when Jesus and Paul were coming up with these ideas. Were these new ideas? Were they the same ideas that you could have got 2 blocks down the street? Like, I find it fascinating. So I know my viewers won't care as much, but it was a great week for me that way.
Awesome. I'm I've called myself like an obsessive learner, and I am, but I don't necessarily always stick with the same subjects.
Right.
Like the thing that I go beyond what some people would probably even suspect. Like right now, Arden and I are both kind of obsessive learners, and one of the things we both love are hobbies and arts and things like that. And somehow we started seeing videos on leatherwork.
Oh,
And then we both kind of professed to each other. I think Arden definitely, I don't think Arden definitely spoke at first on this. She was like, I think I'd like to try that. And I was like, I did some of that, when I was a little kid. And of course, I did some of it in the Navy because I was in deck department. And so you had the canvas shop, which was the sail shop. And while we didn't work very much with leather, we, did similar stuff. And we have jumped in to leatherworking with both feet at a ridiculous level. And a lot of it comes down to like, custom tooling. It's not just get yourself some leather and sew up a wallet or sew up a purse. It is the artistic kind of, we're looking into possibly engaging in wet molding, but we have lots of tools and stamps and are making. Arden's already made something that looks better than anything I'm ever going to make. And it was like the second thing she ever did. But that's because she's like an actual artist. And I'm just a goober that likes to learn stuff.
did you guys invent more hours in the day as well? I don't know where you do it all.
We did not invent any more hours in the day, but we are behind on a couple of shows.
Oh, okay.
We're
Fair
not
enough.
behind on Daredevil though, so we can chat that later.
Oh, good.
All right. So for those who don't know, this is a call-in show. You can call 720-619-2288, or there's a link below in the description for how you can connect to call-in studio on either your PC or your telephone. I will remind you, there's going to be a delay. It's unavoidable. This is just the way technology works. There's also a chance that if you're calling in on your phone's browser may go to sleep and your phone may go to sleep, in which case you'll be hearing us, but we won't be able to hear you, in which you just tap to wake up your phone, tap to wake up the browser, and we'll verify. And by the way, generally speaking, you don't have to say, "Ooh, can you hear me?" Because if we can't, you'll know pretty quickly. And that's the nuts and bolts of it. So if you think that you have a good reason to believe in a God, theists are always going to get priority. We are going to take calls from atheists, agnostics, whoever, whatever label. Maybe you don't like labels at all. Maybe you don't know what you are. But we'd love to hear from you, and we're ready to get started on calls.
Let's do it.
There we go. Mike is calling from West Virginia. Mike's an atheist who wants to talk to us about the definitions of religion and worship. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hi, Matt. Nice to talk to you. Paul, it's been a week since we talked. Good
Hey,
show a week ago Friday night. Basically, I had a quick question. What is your best definition of the word religion? because a lot of apologists equate atheism and scientism to that. And also, if you wouldn't mind giving me your best definition for the word worship. And that's my question, and I don't have anything else to say right now, so go ahead.
Okay. I'll start by saying both of those words have, I think, lots of different uses, and I don't, dictionaries are descriptive, and so there's lots of different ways to use it. So when I talk about religion, I'm usually cautious to make a distinction between religion and religions, just to note that there are many different and different categories. But to me, I think religion is an adherence to some body of instructions and practices that generally include some form of reverence or worship. And for me, worship is reverence for whatever it is that you view as divine. Well, no, that's not true, because you can worship something that's not divine. Maybe it's just reverence towards something. I would say worship, it becomes worship when the thing that you revere is viewed as more valuable than yourself.
I will say, Mike, that I try and avoid both of those words at all times when I'm having these discussions, because the former me that was an evangelical Mennonite kid heard from the pulpit all the time, basically the definition of religion is whatever you are most passionate about, and the definition of worship is whatever your top priority is. And they're based on this constant preaching. It doesn't matter, like if your top priority was your job, they would say you worship your job, or if your top priority was your kids, you worship your kids. And I find that it is too easy for people, at least the kind of believer I was, to try and trap you and conflate bad definitions. I also definitely tend to, in these conversations, ask the other person what they mean by it, because I'm not going to bring those words up, right? I'm not going to bring up worship. I'm not going to bring up religion. So if they want to call me and say atheism is religion, I say, cool, what's a religion? And if religion is the same thing as having a favorite sports team, well, then we're not really talking about much that's meaningful. Yeah. So I don't know, Mike, does that help you at all?
Yes, it does. I have in the past used the word religion to denote something that has God or something supernatural or an afterlife in it. And I think I might be, wrong in that, but that's what sort of sets me off on religion. And worship, it sounds like, according to the Bible, once the final judgment goes, you worship God 24/7, 365 forever, and that's all you do is worship God. So I just think they're interesting concepts, but I do want to thank you both for your answers, and I'll let you go now. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
I will just add one last thing, Mike. I will say that I think if you can, in those conversations, switch to the word worldview as opposed to religion, because worldview is a little bit more helpful, because we're not trying to parse like denominations, right, in theology. But if their worldview contains the supernatural, that's a useful way to talk about differences and similarities. That's, I guess, my last tip.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And Paul, I'll see you next Friday night on Paulogia Live. And Matt, you take her easy.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Take it anywhere I can get. All right. So it's funny, we're queuing up some additional callers right now, and it looks like we've got like a cryptid story, which is something that I mentioned I almost never get and would love to get at some point. So cool, we'll get to that in a minute. But it's worth noting that I think Paul and I are probably in agreement on this, that just as a general rule, the word religion gets tossed around in so many different contexts. It's not, I wouldn't say it's as useless as the word spiritual, which I'm getting ready to do a video on how spirituality is nonsense. But it's definitely like, I don't know what it helps. I don't know what it adds to any conversation, unless we're talking about, for example, a constitutional view of freedom of religion. And in that sense, the Supreme Court of the United States, which doesn't speak for everybody, obviously, definitely not for Paul. Thankfully, there are nations I can escape to when the Supreme Court gets corrupted too much, which has already happened. But anyway, their definition of religion is something along the lines of thoughts and views and actions on behalf of ultimate concern, or that's how they phrased it, was one's views about subjects of ultimate concern. I think that's not an exact quote, but I know the ultimate concern. I think the ultimate concern is part of the definition, and in that sense, I think it's pretty smart because it excludes things like, ooh, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Oh, that's your religion. No, it's not. It's not the ultimate concern. It's just the ultimate football team, which is nonsense because who cares about football? Definitely not me. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. But the way people talk about religion is often oversimplified. Like, religion is bad. Religion poisons everything. And I was listening to an interview not too long ago where an atheist person was essentially arguing that everybody has a religion. And I'm like, I don't know that that's true or valuable to say, which is kind of what I think Paul was getting at. But also, I wouldn't, like, I recognize that for the purposes of freedom of religion, secular humanism gets listed as a religion, was started specifically, I mean, like the first paragraph in the original Secular Humanist Manifesto talked about it as a religion. And so on that front, I think it qualifies under the Supreme Court's definition with ultimate concern, because I think those are maybe issues of ultimate concern. It's not so much about where you end up in an afterlife, but the most important things about how we interact here. So do I have a religion? Under that definition, if you want to say secular humanism is a religion, cool, I'm religious. I don't attend any meetings. I don't follow any guidelines. My secular humanism is pretty much my own. And I don't tend to get invited to a lot of humanist events, despite talking about it all the time. It's like there's a rift between the humanist community and the atheist community, even though they should, I would ideally say, almost be one and the same. The humanists don't like, some of them, especially the older ones, don't like the A label. And atheists don't like, some of them, don't like attachments to what appears to be some sort of structured religion or thought system at all. And so, there's a humanist manifesto. I don't want anything to do with that, even if I agree with all of it. And it's kind of like me with Satanists. I agree with almost everything Satanists are saying, except I find the label ridiculous and I can't tie myself to it because I think it just adds to the confusion.
And it's also sometimes used in terms of level of dogmatism. So there's just so many, that you can't be, anything you can't be dissuaded from is religious. So there's just so many ways to conflate it in problematic ways.
Yeah. All right. So here's a first in a long time. Tim is calling from Pennsylvania, pronouns are he, him, with a cryptid story. I'm going to get out my thing and try to take notes, Tim, but welcome. You're on with Matt and Paul.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
All right.
You want me to just go right into it?
We're excited about this, Tim. You can't know how excited we are. Please
be ready, just in case we interrupt for clarity. But I'm mainly just going to sit here and take notes on your story until I can't restrain myself from jumping in.
Yeah, this is cool. This is my first time ever calling in. So yeah, I'll go right into it. So both of these events take place in Pennsylvania. So already there's like not extraordinary wildlife. So what took place the first time is my mom, she went out into the woods and she had 2 dogs with her. And she was told by other people that the cryptid is a Sasquatch, by the way. She was told that Sasquatches, when they see a person with other people or with pets, they'll bang a stick against a tree to signify how many are there. So I believe she has recorded something slamming like 3 loud bangs, because it was her and 2 other dogs. That could, it could easily be another person. I told my mom that she was.
Did you say 2
crazy.
other dogs?
Yeah, we had 2 dogs at the time.
Yeah, but you said 2 other dogs, which makes it sound like your mom's a dog.
Oh, sorry.
I figured I'd give you a chance just in case, you ever want to enjoy Mother's Day again.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry about that.
So you were saying she recorded,
event,
she recorded like a sound of 3 bangs or something?
So she was just recording because she liked to record stuff outside, and the birds went quiet, and then the 3 loud bangs, like a stick hitting against a tree, or just 3 loud bangs in general, were heard.
Okay.
And I don't know, if that, it probably doesn't really mean much, because, it could be just another person. Maybe she asked someone to do this for her, but it did kind of line up what people say Sasquatches do. So the second event is the one that's I'm not compelled that Sasquatch exists, but I can't find an explanation for what this was for the second event.
You know that other wildlife, you know that other wildlife will bang on things, right?
Yeah, like woodpeckers. But they were like heavy bangs, like they weren't like little pecks.
Okay, but I mean, here in Canada we have a lot of big wildlife that make big noises. But I will let you go to your second story.
Okay, yeah, the first story isn't really that compelling. The second one, so it was Halloween night, and my mom just wanted to mess with us by going on the trail. About like, oh, here's Sasquatch. And she even brought my dad. And we were going down the trail, and it's pitch black, and I had the very terrible headlamps on. And when we got about like 200 so feet down the trail, a little bit off to the trail to the right, it was like ground level. We heard, I'm gonna do my best to impersonate what the sound was, but it's gonna be awful. It was like a whoop sound, and I don't know what kind of animal makes that noise. Whatever it was, it freaked us out, and we all heard it because I looked behind me, and my dad's already running. He already left us. He's already running back to the car. And we just followed, and ever since then, I've been trying to look at what animals in Pennsylvania would make that kind of noise. I heard of a young raccoon can make those kind of noises for like its mother. It doesn't sound like it. A barred owl, the noises it makes, it didn't sound like it. And another bird, it was like, I don't remember what it was called, but I looked that one up too, and did not sound like it. It could have been a variation, like one of those animals made those noises, but it was just a pitch variation. But I have no clue what the answer is to that. My mom did try to reach out to a state park, like a state park station, to ask them what this was, but they never gave her an answer. Now my mom takes that as like conspiracy theory of like, oh, they're hiding, the truth, but I think there is an answer. I don't know what to think though, because everything I've been trying to like connect it to what made that noise, nothing lines up. It didn't sound like a bear, didn't sound like a deer, because it sounded pretty big, but we we had pretty bad headlamps and we couldn't see it, so don't know for sure.
So in this second story, you said your mom took you guys out intentionally on a trail in the dark with headlamps.
Yes. So
Why did your
the
mom say
reason
she
why
was taking? Why did your mom say she was taking you out into the trail?
So for one, because it was Halloween night, and second of all, she really did believe that the Sasquatch thing. She wanted us to go further down into the trail to maybe just so we can get like the eyewitnesses. But the problem I have is I was easily just gonna say it was a person, but this is a trail that it's about 5 miles away from the nearest civilization. And the problem is that there was no other cars where you park for to go on this trail. And we took off. We took off right away. So if my mom were to bring someone to, set up to make that noise, we just left. That means they just left that person there in the trail for the rest of the night because we didn't go back.
You don't think that person could leave?
Leave.
Well, you're making it sound like they abandoned somebody for the rest of the night. Once they scare you and you guys run off, they can just leave, right?
Yeah, they could. But the thing is that the only reason I'm not convinced by that is because the nearest owned homes that my mom is connected to is pretty far. Now they could just walk back. I do grant that. It didn't seem compelling to me, but that could very well be an answer.
This is so
I was
weird.
thinking more towards animal.
This is so weird because you basically told two stories that have a sound. One of them is a banging sound and one of them is an unknown whoop sound. What makes you think either of them could possibly be a Bigfoot? And how do you account for the fact that we now have a new documentary of the original Bigfoot image video being confirmed as a hoax by the guys that did it?
So as I said, my mom, she believes it's Bigfoot, and I do want to know what else it could be, but I just haven't really found a separate explanation for it.
It's strange. It's strange that you ignored the question because you're trying to find out what else it could be. I have no reason to think it could be that. Why do you think it could be Bigfoot?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to gloss over the question. I don't believe it could be Bigfoot. I don't believe it is.
Okay, now I'm even more confused because now you don't think it could be Bigfoot. So basically, it's
what my mom thinks.
Okay. Your mom's the story. I'm not aware. I don't see how this story could provide any person anywhere rational warrant to believe that there's a Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid. All we have, I mean, this is not a cryptid story. This is my mom walked in the woods and heard a noise that some people say was consistent with Bigfoot. Well, how do they know what's consistent with Bigfoot? And even if it was consistent with, correlation isn't causation. And then your second story, your mom takes you out on Halloween to go find a Bigfoot and you hear a whoop and you guys run and that's a cryptid story on Halloween? I don't think so.
Are you familiar with the concept of priming, Tim?
Probably should. Yes, sorry.
Are you familiar with the concept of priming? Where basically where sometimes expectations can lead us to selectively interpret our inputs in a certain way that we've been led to. And it sure sounds like this Halloween night you were being as primed as possible by your mom to interpret anything that happened as a Bigfoot related event. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, you get starting to realize maybe I should have thought about this more. The only reason I'm like was confused about it because I've never like experienced that kind like any sort of thing making that kind of noise before. So that's why I was thinking it was some kind of animal. But
I mean, so what you're saying is you experience something you've never experienced before and you can't figure out what it is. That's a mystery. That's not a cryptid story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you've already acknowledged,
I only put
listening to you talk about it, all of this is based on your mom. And it almost sounds like you suspect that your mom may be pranking you, because how convenient is it that your mom takes you out, on Halloween and happens to walk you up where you hear a sound you've never heard before. And then you start describing how this couldn't, that we left the person was left out there. If it was somebody my mom knew, they would have had to live too far. It's like you're closing the doors on any assumption that your mom's fucking with you. And instead, whether your mom is messing with you or not is irrelevant to, at most, somebody heard a sound. You heard a sound that you don't know what it is. And on another occasion, your mom heard a sound that you got that neither of you know what it is. And the sound your mom heard was 3 loud bangs. Well, maybe a branch broke and snapped a couple times. Maybe something fell and hit 3 rocks. Maybe there was a bear. Maybe there was a deer. Maybe there was an elk. Maybe there was a coyote. Maybe there was a beaver, a raccoon, or a possum, or anything that could have rustled something in the woods that led to 3 bangs. Or maybe it wasn't 3 bangs. But even let's assume for a second it was 3 bangs, the entire story is predicated on somebody told your mom that when Sasquatches see a person with people or pets, they bang a tree to signify how many people they see. What evidence do we have that Sasquatch are real, that they communicate via banging a tree, and that they communicate in the numbers? None. That I'm aware of.
Yeah, that kind of checks out.
Your mama's so boss, she convinced you that Bigfoot might be real. That's how boss your mama is.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think I was just more so like trying to find, like, figure out what kind of animal it was before assuming it was another person.
No, it's right. I'm sorry, Paul, you were going to say something.
I was saying, what research have you done to determine what kind of animal it is? Because, while we were talking, I just, did a quick Google of wildlife that make whooping sounds in Pennsylvania. And there's like a dozen things come up, including a bunch of owls that would have been out at night, coyotes, elks, red foxes.
Yeah.
Like, so there's, I'm just wondering, did you do even that level of research into this?
Yes. So what I did was, because my first assumption was owl, and I looked up what owls live in Pennsylvania, and I did what I could to get like very clear, like how they sound, like audible videos of how they sound, and none of them were like really close to what the noise was, but again, it could have been like, different pitches and like vocalization, because not every single one of them sound exactly the same.
Well, I applaud you for at least having done that level. I was going to scold you if you had not at least gone that far, but again, as Matt said, I don't know what it is a very, very, very far cry from it was Bigfoot.
Or it was a cryptid, or it was an agent, or a thinking thing, or anything that was animated. I mean, we have, a whoop, which, by the way, you're interpreting a whoop that you've never heard before. But it's like, we're back to Blackadder. So there's a moment when in Blackadder the Second, Lord Percy's talking about the Spanish Infanta and how her eyes are bluer than the great stone of Galveston. And Blackadder asks, have you ever seen the Infanta's eyes? No, but I've heard that it's bluer than the great stone of Galveston. Have you ever seen the great stone of Galveston? No. So what you're saying, Lord Percy, is that something you've never seen is slightly less blue than something else you've never seen, which I found absolutely hilarious. But what you're talking about is a whoop that you've never heard before is sufficiently, I guess, distinct from anything you've ever heard that you could reach some conclusion about it. I would say that you have less reason to reach a conclusion about the whoop than any other element of the story.
It's starting to make a little bit more sense now.
I wonder if there's other cryptids that are claimed to be in the Pennsylvania area. So, for example, I know the mammals that I pulled up a list of mammals in Pennsylvania, and specifically I was looking at the big ones as well. But I mean, you've got lynx and wolverine and lynx and wolverine and bison are now extinct or in Pennsylvania, but at least in like you've got elk up in north central Pennsylvania. But
really,
all of that was me diving into.
Yeah, you got elk.
Yeah, all of that was me diving into. Hey, let's assume it's some sort of mammal, but it doesn't have to be that either. You know, when we hear a sound, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us have been fooled by a sound. Like, I thought I heard the phone ring. I thought I heard a knock at the door. I thought I heard someone whistling out back. Trees creak and make sounds. And as, if there's a wind, you get wind whistling through stuff. You get branches creaking. And if you're not used to particular sounds, and it could be your mom punking you, which I think is perfect. Like, if I were you, I'd be like, you remember that Halloween, Mom, when you took us out and we heard that? That was really funny. I just want to let you know I figured out you did it. It's all right. I love you.
Yeah, and it must have been compelling enough for me to call the line about it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to admit that if you don't want to.
And then if your mom's like, "Oh, I didn't say any of that." Yeah, I understand, Mom. I understand. And you might get a confession. I don't want you to lie to your mom, but you can lay traps. Anyway, we're going to move on. Tim, I appreciate the call. It was definitely different from the normal fodder and interesting stuff. But yeah, I would recommend A, get comfortable with saying, I don't know. And B, always ask yourself, is the thing I'm thinking might be a possible explanation for the event actually even possible? Like, what reason do I have to believe that this could possibly be Bigfoot or Chupacabra or the Loch Ness Monster or, fairies or whatever, or gods? Something doesn't get to be a candidate answer or an explanation for something until such time as it's been demonstrated to be real and to be detectably tied to the event that we're observing.
Yeah. It was only compelling because we all four of us heard it, but it could have been anything.
Be careful in the woods.
I'm glad I called in.
We are too, Tim.
I just don't have anything else to talk about because, like, with religion, I just usually agree with what it says, so I have nothing else to talk about.
You have no idea how tempting it was to literally hang up on you the second you said, I have nothing else to talk about, just for the joke. But I decided not to, Tim.
You could have. It would be funny.
All right. Well, thanks for calling, Tim. Paul, did you have any last words?
No, other than, if people, when the stream's over, want to have fun, Google what a moose sounds like, because whatever you think it sounds like, it's not what you think it sounds like. First time every Canadian hears that, they're like, what in the world is going on? Anyway, it's just fun.
Is it a whoop?
No.
Because I was like, maybe some moose
Well,
swam its way over to Pennsylvania.
It is more probable that a moose wandered out of its territory than a Sasquatch. But anyway,
I would think so. I don't know how to determine the possibility, but I'd say based on odds of confirmed experiences, yes, the odds are way in favor of a moose. Right. The odds are in favor of an African elephant.
Sure, Bigfoot. Absolutely. Yeah, could have got out of a zoo. You never know.
Yeah, could have escaped from a zoo.
Yeah.
I love that. I finally get a call on cryptid stuff, and kudos to Tim and Tim's mom, by the way. Good job. Good job, Tim's mom. But it's, hey, there was a banging and a woo. For all I know, I mean, if that had all happened at once, we'd be describing sex for somebody.
That's right.
All right. So David is a theist calling us from Denmark, pronouns are he, him, who wants to talk about determinism. He's a Spinozist. I don't even know if I've ever spoken to someone who actually identifies as a Spinozist. I'm assuming like classical under, Baruch Spinoza's kind of God in the universe and everything are all the same substance. Is that what we're talking about, David?
Well, yeah, kind of. And I have only talked to like a very few Spinozists myself. So yeah, I know that you kind of looked into that at some point, Matt. I think I heard you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember a whole lot about it. So it's like one of those things where I've done this for a long time. And once I found my way out of Christianity, I dug in more on philosophy. And so I looked, but I'm not classically trained in any of it. I don't have a degree in any of it. This is all, just me learning stuff because that's what I like to do. And so I dug in and looked at pantheism, panentheism. I'm actually getting ready to do a video maybe next month if there's time. Some other things cropped up, but I was getting ready to do a video on Spinoza's geometric proof for God.
Cool. And David, I don't know what it is, so can you give me a very brief?
Fill us all in, because otherwise it's just the two of us talking about stuff that you know more about and the audience might have missed.
Okay.
Give me a quick version.
Well, yeah. Well, I would say that one of the I would probably say that one of the most basal things in Spinocism is determinism. Like that, everything we have, everything that's happening is happening for a reason, and it has a cause. So, like, even though that like everything that happens with 100% certainty, even if, for instance, if you flip a coin, you will the outcome will be because of our ignorance, we don't know where it's going to go. It will be 50-50. Once the coin has landed.
David, just pardon my ignorance, just to clarify.
Yeah.
Does everything happen for a reason and everything happen for a cause? Are those identical statements to you?
Ish, but not if we're talking about the reason is that some deity or some entity has decided.
Okay, so for you those are different. Everything has a cause I can get on board with. Well, not what's in general terms. But everything has a reason. You're saying that there's a macro plan as well as causation. Is that fair? I'm just trying to get your definition.
Sure. Okay. There's no plan. There's nothing that has been determined by some sort of consciousness or anything like that. It's not that we're moving towards some sort of goal.
So this is just hard determinism, where if you could adequately model the molecules in the universe and the quarks in the universe, that you could actually tell predictively what was going to happen.
Exactly. If we had a supercomputer who could do that, that would be cool.
Okay. Sorry, I appreciate that clarification. Continue on.
Sure. So yeah, it is like hyperdeterminism, at least for in my view. But for instance, there are like some things. For instance, when we're talking about objective and subjective morals, I'm kind of curious because we would say that a lot of people would say that we do not have objective morals, but the thing is that I don't know if you could like clarify what would you say objective morals would look like? How would they be? How would we see them?
Well, I don't believe in objective morals, so it's weird for me to try and define it.
Yeah, and I don't either, nor do I have like I don't know how to answer the question. We seem to have shifted topics. So I'm sorry, I was confused because you identified as a theist, but Spinoza didn't. Spinoza was pantheist or panentheist, but that you might identify as one of those and just count it with theism. But how did we get to morals at all? Because I'm not convinced that hard determinism is true, and we were talking about that. And I don't know what the justification is for calling the universe or everything or the substance God. And we skipped past all that and jumped right back to what would objective morals look like. And I'll just say, I don't know.
Well, the reason why I'm asking this is, and I know I kind of shifted because we were just going along with the definition of determinism and how far you could go that way. But usually you would say if it is subjective morals if they are mind dependent, but
yes,
everything that is mind dependent ultimately comes from something that is not mind dependent, right? Because at some point there wasn't. If we go far enough back in time, there were no minds.
Are you telling me that in a world with no minds that there is also morality?
No, but if we go back in time to the time where there were no minds, if we are determinists, we
David, I came from a woman. Does that mean I'm a woman?
No.
Then let's stop
Obviously
talking
not.
about where things come from with this reductive thing. If you go back far enough, there wasn't a mind. I don't care if we go back. Yes, if we go back far enough, I don't think there was a mind. But also, I don't think there were morals, because morals are value assessments. You need a mind for that.
There wouldn't necessarily come minds, and therefore come morals. And
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
Okay. And the reason why we have these, like, determinism and this, like in very hyper determinism, we cannot have anything else than what we have. Like, things could not have gone any different. That would mean that the morals I have necessarily is something that I necessarily must have.
Okay, you seem to be instead talking about whether or not, you seem to be also conflating will and any number of things. But what you just described denies that there is any subjective mind at all. You're basically saying determinism forced you to be exactly what you are. And even if it appears that you have opinions about something, all of those opinions were just forced on you. There was no action on your part, no consideration on your part. There's nothing subjective at all.
Well, kind of, yeah. No subjectivity, no free will, no nothing. It is very, very boring. Like, you could describe it as we're just like if we're watching a movie and just feeling it, like we are experiencing it. But the reason for our actions is determined, not by a conscious mind, but determined as any other physical law.
I don't necessarily. So first of all, I think hard determinism is probably not true, but some version of soft determinism, but is. But I don't understand what value or what difference there is, because you're essentially a pantheist who is advocate. I'm sorry if you don't feel that's accurate. I'm just describing what we talked about. Saying that Oh, hard determinism is true. And you're a monist, right? In that there's one substance that is God and the universe and us. What's the justification for thinking that substance includes anything that would warrant the God label?
Well, ultimately it comes down to say, well, it's a matter of definition, and maybe the reason I am a pantheist, I'm a spinicist, maybe it's because I don't know, have a hard time giving up religion or something like that. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what the reason why specifically I became a spinicist. But I would say that when we're talking about objectivity and subjectivity, like in these calls in this show, it has like that has been the subject a lot of times because of religion and religious morals and stuff like that, and religious people claiming that this must be objective because God said it or whatever.
Okay. I apologize, David. I don't know how to put this without sounding like a little bit like a dick. I don't need you to call in and tell me what other people have done or what their view is or what we've talked about in the past. I need you to defend what your view is. And right now, you've just defined a view where there's nothing that is subjective. And I don't know how you demonstrate that that's the correct view.
Well, yeah. Again, it's a matter of definition, but I would say that there is really no hard difference between objectivity and subjectivity, because even though
literally it's the difference between whether something is mind dependent or not.
Yes, but nothing is purely mind dependent if
you don't think thought is mind dependent
on something that is not mind dependent. Yeah.
You don't think thoughts are mind dependent?
Yes, but the mind is dependent on something that is not mind dependent.
I'm so confused because you just said nothing is mind dependent, and then you just agreed the very first thing I thought of, you agreed it is mind dependent. So which is right?
Okay, sorry if I misspoke. Well, yeah, the mind itself ultimately is not mind dependent.
Wow.
Right?
So what?
So you're basically saying that our thoughts are like the thought that I'm having now was predetermined. And is that you're saying like that just the molecules are sufficient to predict what my next word will be and what my next thought will be, and therefore really mind isn't a valuable construct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the value of our thoughts and our feelings are obviously important. That's
to who are they important? Are the value of our thoughts and feelings important to non-minds? Like, are they important to a rock?
Not necessarily, unless you.
What do you mean, not necessarily?
Rock,
does a rock have a mind?
No, obviously not.
Okay. Is a rock even capable of considering something important?
Of course not.
Of course not. So you don't think that undermines what you just said?
No.
Literally, only a mind values things, right?
Yes.
And if different minds value things differently, and those minds are part of that package, like my mind is my mind and your mind is your mind, then there's a difference in our views, as is clear by the fact that we're arguing, and that would be a subjective assessment, right?
You could say that.
I did say that. I'm asking you if that's accurate.
Well, sure, in part. But that's why I'm arguing that there's.
How's it not subjective? Sure. How is it not subjective?
Because the reason why we have our subjective opinions is it comes from something that is not subjective, that is objective.
Prove it. Prove
usually
it
what we're
and
talking
then
about.
prove it, and then show how that makes my opinion non-subjective.
I'm not saying that they're not subjective. I'm saying that
You
there's not that
literally
big of a
are.
difference.
I'm sorry. I'll stop because I'm gonna let you explain, and maybe Paul has a different question because I don't want to get irritated over something so silly and evidently pointless as you appear to be saying there's no such thing as subjective. Then there is something that could be viewed as subjective in some way. And then when I ask in what way it's not viewed as subjective, instead of talking about the thing, you want to talk about the origin of the thing. Well, ultimately, everything is chemistry. Everything is atoms. Atoms aren't sentient. Therefore, nothing that's made of atoms can be viewed as sentient. That is demonstrably false. Just like atoms aren't wet, but things made of atoms can definitely be wet, right?
Are you there, David?
You might have timed out. You might need to tap your phone or whatever to wake it back up. But
Sorry, can you hear me now?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I locked the screen though. Just to clarify, if I've said that subjectivity does not exist, that was a mistake. I'm saying
okay.
that there's not a big difference between subjectivity and objectivity, because usually when we talk about subjectivity, we would say
They're literally opposites. It's funny that you say there's not much difference between this is not contingent on an opinion and this one is. Those are direct logical negations, and you say there's not much difference.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
either if we like if we're talking about something that we could say that let's if we put a rock on a big mountain and we push it down, it will fall and tumble in different directions and roll down. We would be able to maybe calculate how the rock would fall, right? We wouldn't call the rock subjective because, as we said before, the rock does not have a subjective opinion. But this is, when we look at determinism, kind of the same way as the mind functions. If you're asking me to prove it, I would say that everything else in the entire universe follows physical laws, reacts in
What do you mean everything
completely
else?
natural ways.
What do you mean everything else? Name something that doesn't follow physical laws.
Now, I'm saying that everything we have follows these physical laws.
Okay,
If
a
we
minute
wanna
ago
say
you
that-
said everything else follows physical laws, and
Okay,
that's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
asked you to. So that's not the case?
No, and sorry about that. When we're talking about the mind, we would say that that the mind itself has these conclusions, have these subjective opinions, or whatever, and everything else in the universe follows the natural laws. And I would put it that the mind as well also just follows these natural laws, like the rock
Yes, I
tumbling down the
agree. I
hill.
don't think
Okay.
the mind violates a natural law. I don't understand why you're making this point, because it doesn't matter. This is more reductivist, where you're trying to say that because things are made of atoms and atoms don't have opinions, therefore the things made of them can't have opinions, and that's just false.
Oh, I'm not saying that we don't have opinions.
You're saying
not
those
saying that.
opinions are not subjective. You're saying that they are determined and that this makes them indistinguishable from objective.
Yes.
David, let me try this. David, let me try this. Would you agree that something can be both subjective and determined? So my favorite ice cream is strawberry ice cream. That, would you agree that perhaps that was, if you believe in hard determinism, there was no other option for Paul to have a different favorite ice cream, but at the same time, my favorite ice cream is simultaneously subjective. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I think so. Actually, that's actually a good point, because then we have something that is both objective and subjective, and hence my point that
I think David. I think what the problem here is you are using objective as you're using objective and determined as if they're synonyms, and Matt and I are not. I think that is that the problem right now, that perhaps you're conflating determinism and objectivism, or at least as we would define them?
Well, I would say that that they would be pretty close.
No, but Matt was defining very clearly what he meant by objectivism. He was defining very clearly that objective
not
objectivism means, or not objectivism, but what objective.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate.
I don't want the Ayn Rand people.
No, I get you. So objective means not from a mind, right? But determinism is more than that, right? Determinism is more of a story about how a thing came to be, as opposed to what it is. Can you agree to that, David?
Well, sure. In part, I think, yeah, sure.
Okay. So this was a definition fight that we were fighting, and we weren't realizing it. If I can shift this just for a second, because I was a little bit bored with the definition fight. You called in to say that you're a theist, but you're also a hard determinist. So I am curious as to what theism adds to hard determinism. Let's say I buy in. I say, David, you've sold me. I am also a hard determinist. What do I need this God concept for if I accept hard determinism? What is the add? What is the plus? What is the extra explanatory power?
I wouldn't say that you necessarily need it. You can be a determinist without being a spinicist, obviously.
Then why did you add it? What is it adding for you if you are a hard determinist to say that?
Well, if you're asking me what is the reason why I became a pantheist, I couldn't say that there would be like one specific thing. It will probably be a combination of a lot of things, because it usually is.
So this is you understand that's a non-answer, right? Like, you're not giving me anything. Can you give me? Give me one thing?
I am understanding.
Tell me one thing that's better about pantheism than hard determinism, or that has more explanatory power, or anything like that.
I could say that for me, it has given some sort of togetherness, some sort of it definitely added something.
Okay, but that's a club, right? Like it added a common, like, I could join a book club for Dune or Lord of the Rings, right? And similarly find meaning, and togetherness in something, right? Like, it seems arbitrary. So are you saying that it's arbitrary?
Well, apparently not for me, but I couldn't say that it would be the same for anyone else, and I would never reach spinicism in any way.
Okay, but to be clear, yeah. I asked you what the bonus, what is the better explanatory power of pantheism over hard determinism, and you said it makes me feel good. Is that the primary?
That's probably the best and shortest answer. So
do you care whether it's true? Does it Is it important to you whether it's true, or is it important to you that there's a utility for you?
Obviously, both.
Why is that obviously
but-
both?
Well, because we always, like most of us at least, care if something is true. And
I have talked to
this
many.
case-
I've talked to dozens and dozens of people who answered that they don't actually care whether it's true. So,
And you didn't just say
okay.
yes, so I'm not sure.
Okay. But again, to like call the entire universe God, again, it's a matter of definition.
right, but what does it add? Like I can call my dog a wuzzawump, and it doesn't add anything.
No, and unless you really, really like that name. But obviously, for me, it has added something. The thought of togetherness, or maybe I have a lot of bad reasons. Like maybe it's because I'm brought up in a religious family and everything like that, and I have a hard time giving up something that feels like religion. That might be the case. I couldn't say.
Right. But you understand that when I asked you, do you care if it's true or do you care if it's useful? You said obviously it's both.
Oh yeah.
But you keep, every time I press you on it, you come back to, well, it's useful. It's useful. It's useful.
Okay.
Not that, and I keep asking you, well, if something is true, right? It should make predictions about future discoveries. It should have explanatory power, explanatory scope. And you're just saying I'm just defining a word differently, and it makes me feel better.
Sure.
So I'm still waiting for this thing that makes it more true.
Okay. Well, then sure. If then I would say that I could obviously prove that God is true if you had the same definition of God, which was the entire universe. I could obviously say that the predictions that this God is making are true because it's through determinism. That is how we.
But you understand, again, you're not adding. I keep asking, what is the added value, and you are just saying I'm using a different noun. Using a different noun doesn't add value. What is the added value that makes it more true to be a pantheist than to be a hard determinist?
The added value for it, in my case, would be that I have this sort of togetherness. I couldn't say that it is more true or less true than, yeah.
Well, but you understand this is my frustration because I keep asking you the same thing.
Yeah.
And you keep saying, well, it makes me feel good is the added value, and it makes you feel good doesn't make it more true.
Yeah, I mean, it might make me feel good to say that the universe is actually just the mind of a unicorn, but that tells me nothing about whether or not it's true.
Sure, but obviously, I wouldn't think that there's that big of a difference between saying that everything is God or that nothing is God.
You don't. No. The difference is a whole fucking God.
But again, God is not a protected title. God can be literally anything.
No, it can't literally be anything. Now you're just playing with words in the least useful way possible.
Okay.
That's not how language works. That's not how logic works. You are basically saying, you've already said that there's something that can be both objective and subjective. So you've thrown out any useful definitions and the foundation of logical principles like law of identity and non-contradiction excluded middle. And now you're suggesting that that there's no big difference between God is everything and God is nothing. Are you fucking kidding me? The whole difference is an entire God.
Well, if you would define God as something that is sentient, or if
it doesn't matter what the God is, it doesn't matter how you define God. Those things are contradictory. You can't have a God that is everything and a God that is nothing. There's no definition of God that works for both of those.
No, but I would say that in all, for all practical intents and purposes, there's not that big of a difference.
Oh my, never mind. I have zero interest in speaking to you ever again, because you've thrown out logic, you've thrown out foundational definitions, you don't know how anything works, and you're basically saying that everything is the same as nothing. And that's not fucking remotely true. And that makes this a weak. No. That's literally what you were arguing for. And that's what makes this a waste of everybody's fucking time.
I said that the definitions, which I'm saying that if you say God is everything or that God is nothing for all practical intents and purposes, it's not that much of a big.
Yes, I didn't need you to say your incredibly stupid thing again. It's still just as stupid as it was the first time you said it.
Okay. No, but I think that I've had this conversation with a lot of people and stuff like that. But if, for instance, most of the definitions that people use for God applies to a.
I don't care, David. David, this is not your arena to do a fucking book report on how most people describe a God. We're here to talk about what your justification is for your position, and you have now contradicted yourself and reality and dictionaries and logic multiple times. There is no reason for us to continue this.
Think about this some more, have some more conversations, and hopefully you can refine this. And if all it is this makes you feel better about hard determinism, who am I to, I guess.
Can you hear me now?
As long as go.
Yes, but you know,
I wouldn't go there, but
I
wouldn't go there, but I guess that's where you've landed.
Yeah,
you don't like hard determinism, so you give it a different name.
We could hear you when you said, "Can you hear me now?" But we can't hear you now because I hung up. This is wild. Something can't be objective and not objective. I mean, and subjective is by definition that which is not objective, or objective is by definition that which is non-subjective. Those are direct logical negations.
Yeah, but he clearly was hearing your definition over and over again, but not adopting them for the conversation.
It's wild. All right. Well, now we've got a genuine, not a pantheist, but a theist calling in to convert us to Christianity. So Maxine from California, pronouns she, her. Welcome to the show, Maxine. I hope you are, I hope you have the best arguments and evidence ever to convert us.
Yes, I do. I'm ready.
Awesome.
So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is design and creation, or like how the world was made. The complexity of like the earth, the galaxy, the stars, it has to, like how complex it is, life suggests an intelligent designer. Like, so your car how your car was manufactured, you know that somebody made your car. Just how like I know that somebody made me, somebody made the earth because of how complex it is.
That's none of that is true, by the way, but keep going.
Also, you're like conscious. So how you know right is wrong. Like for me, I know that it is wrong when I go out and I physically hurt someone. That is wrong. How do I know that is wrong if there's no God?
Oh, that's easy. You know it's wrong because you are an empathetic social being that understands what you prefer and what you don't prefer, and how you would object if this was done to you. And so you know from principles of game theory, whether you studied game theory or not, that the best thing you can do is encourage other people within the society to also agree with you that this thing is bad, and that reduces the chance that it happens to you. I'd rather not be killed, so I'm opposed to killing. I'd rather not have my stuff stolen, so I'm opposed to people stealing my stuff. And I work together cooperatively to build a moral system with people who agree with those values, and that we will uphold those. That's how.
Okay, why don't you think that God is real?
Because there isn't sufficient evidence to conclude that God is real. When you talk about your design, So first of all, complexity is not the hallmark of design. Simplicity and efficiency, or simplicity is the hallmark of design. But we don't tell something is designed because it's complex. We tell design by contrasting it with things that occur naturally. So there are things that occur naturally, and then there are things that are intelligently designed. You're in a position, I suspect, where you think that nature is also intelligently designed. So now you're pointing to everything and saying that no matter how simple or complex it is, it's all designed. And I'm saying I have no evidence that anything is intelligently designed in the natural world that just occurs. But for a building, I can go look at the architectural plans and I can meet, in many cases, the person who did it. How I know a building was designed and how I know a car was designed is completely different from that sort of evidence does not exist for a universe. We have exactly one universe. We have no other universes to compare it to. Let's say you're walking along a river and you find a bunch of sticks and mud that are damming up the river. How do you tell if that was built by a beaver or a collection of beavers, or if it naturally occurred in a flood?
It probably naturally occurred in a flood.
Wow. So I asked how to tell the difference between two things, and you just said it probably occurred during a flood. So Paul?
I'm from the land of the beavers, so I can kind of tell. But do you understand the question, Maxine?
Yes, but like you're trying to compare something that was caused by a flood, but the thing is, like, how does the universe just pop into existence?
Oh, the universe didn't pop into existence. You'd need to prove that the universe popped into existence.
Okay, then where do you think that the universe came from?
I have no reason to think that the universe didn't always exist in some form or another. That's consistent with cosmology. And we can't explore things prior to the Planck time from when the expansion started. So we have no way to investigate what did or didn't always exist.
Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about is Jesus. There's proof of like Jesus's cross, Jesus's robe, the crown of thorns.
None of those things do we have proof for.
And
none of those things do we have proof for.
Yes, the cross is in many churches across Europe.
Literally all of the things you just named, the cross, the robe, the crown of thorns, we have no evidence of any of those.
Yes, we do.
Where?
The parts of the cross have been found across Europe, and some of them are even displayed in churches across Europe too.
How do you know that they were part of a cross, let alone the cross that Jesus was on, and not just wood that someone said was from a cross so that their church would have something to venerate?
Because like the experts look at it and they know that it's the cross of Jesus.
Go ahead, Paul.
How could any expert possibly know that a piece of wood came from a cross, let alone the cross of Jesus? What would be the marker? What would be any kind?
Because of the way that the nails are nailed in.
You think scraps of wood? So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul. I need to applause.
No, you're good, man. I guess all I was going to say, do you know that the Romans crucified thousands and thousands of people, right?
Yes.
Okay, so even if I was to grant that there was nails in wood, and nails typically go in wood for building boats and for building houses, that's typically where nails go. Again, what would be the marker to say that even if you could somehow, and I don't believe that there's a marker that you could say this was a nail in a cross versus a nail in a boat. How could you possibly know that that was a Jesus's cross versus the thief next to him?
Yes, I understand where you're coming from. That does make sense.
Okay.
Also,
go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. You're aware that we have recorded accounts of people being caught fraudulently trying to sell claimed relics, and no way to confirm any of these relics. But meanwhile, I'm not a mythicist. Like, I'm not somebody who says Jesus never existed. I'm fine with the notion that he might have existed. I just don't know how we know anything at all about his life or any facts about it, because it is all surrounded and is all portrayed to us in a handful of stories in a rather small collection of books for which we cannot speak to any of the authors. We cannot investigate any of the people. For example, the Gospels weren't written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They weren't written by eyewitnesses. These are names attributed by the church, and there's good reason to think that they weren't eyewitnesses. But even if they were, that doesn't confirm that their story is true. And so while I'm fine with the notion that there may have been a Jesus and he may have gotten killed, that doesn't mean that he's divine. It doesn't mean he performed miracles. And it definitely, there's no, we can set aside the relics because there's no way to confirm the relics. Just like if we were to find people like, oh, I remember a guy I debated once said that he would believe that Jesus didn't raise from the dead if somebody produced a body. And I'm like, how would you confirm that that body is Jesus? You can do DNA testing, but you don't have DNA records from then anyway. So all of these things that people say would convince them that their religion isn't true are seemingly impossible. And a lot of believers focus on that. Like, I believe Jesus proved me wrong, but what they believe is essentially unfalsifiable. All I want to know is, what's the good reason to believe? Like, for example, I used to be a Southern Baptist, was studying to be a minister. I don't find the story to be either convincing or remotely good. I find the God character of the Bible to be morally repugnant. He advocates for slavery. There's no equality between genders. It's a bizarre comedy of failures where he creates the world and it just keeps going wrong, even when he starts narrowing it down, like, these are my chosen people, etc. But you seem to like, oh, they found relics of the cross. No, you can't confirm that. We know that the Shroud of Turin is almost certainly a fake from the 14th, 15th century, something like that. I don't remember the exact date. What can you provide us so that Paul and I can confirm that Jesus is in fact divine, like actually God?
Okay, well, there's nothing that I can do to you except your own faith. But like I'm
Except my
gonna
own
say,
what?
the Bible is basically a giant history book written by many authors or scholars, just like history books that we have in schools and other places. So like,
No, it's not
wrong. It's illogical for me to say that because the author of a history book is like not alive anymore, that I don't know that something from a history book is false. So like, you're saying that the people that wrote the Bible,
that's not only, I'm
false?
sorry, Maxine, I'm interrupting, Maxine, because not only is that not illogical, that is in fact rational. The burden of proof is on the people making the claim. If an ancient book, whether someone views it as a history book or not, makes a claim, that doesn't tell you whether the claim is true.
Okay.
And the Bible is not a collection of
mean,
history books. The Bible is, in its current form, is a collection of 66 books by different authors that tell different aspects of different stories, some of which overlap. But the Bible gets countless things demonstrably wrong. For example, do you think that the first book, do you think Genesis is true, that that's the story of creation?
yes, I do.
So which came first, the earth or the sun?
Probably, I think the sun.
What's the Bible say?
That the earth came first.
So if the Bible says the earth came first and you think the sun came first and science says the sun came first, are you wrong? Is science wrong? Is the Bible wrong? Who's wrong? How would we tell?
The Bible.
So if the Bible's wrong about that, and that's the first, 5 verses? Sorry, 6 verses.
Yes.
So if the Bible's wrong about that, what reason do I have to think the Bible's wrong about anything else or right about anything else? Wouldn't I need external confirmation?
Yes.
Awesome. What's the external confirmation that Jesus is divine?
there's no proof for it.
Cool. So if we have a claim that you and I agree there's no proof of, why do you feel justified in believing it and thinking we should, and I don't feel justified in believing it, and I don't think anybody should? What's the difference?
Because I can feel the Holy Spirit.
How do you know you're feeling the Holy Spirit?
I can
Because
feel certain things.
Yeah, when I stood in church, I used to think I felt the Holy Spirit too. I found out later I didn't have good reason for that. What's your good reason for thinking you're feeling the Holy Spirit?
Because like I feel like Jesus is speaking to me, or God is speaking to me.
I felt like that too. Paul, did you ever feel like that?
Yeah, especially on my baptism day, that way the Holy Spirit, I felt it like unlike any other day. And I used to talk to Jesus every day about where my contact lenses were and where my keys were and what who my spouse should be and what job I should have. And I really felt like I was getting answers all the time. But later on, I was able to look back and realize that what I was doing was having conversations with myself and affirmation about that. And now I believe that all those things that I felt, if you'd have asked me at the time and held the gun to my head, I would have told you that the Holy Spirit was talking to me. I now no longer attribute those conversations and feelings to the Holy Spirit because I understand better about how psychology works and what I was doing for myself.
So apart from just feeling it, I mean, you could be wrong about your feelings, right?
Yes.
So how can you tell, and how can we tell that you're in fact right, that Jesus is talking to you?
Because so if something wasn't real, then why would other people, millions of other people across the world, feel the exact same thing?
So first of all, I reject the assertion that they feel exactly the same thing. They feel something akin to the same thing, for sure. And that's because we are similar creatures with similar brains and similar psychology, where in the same way that some of us are incredibly impressed and overwhelmed emotionally by music, by art, by flowers, by beauty in any number of senses, that's about who we are as a matter of psychology. And it's completely unsurprising that when we are trying to solve similar problems and understand similar things about reality, that we are prone to making similar mistakes. And I remember when I was standing in church and we were singing and praising, and I would feel euphoric and get goosebumps and just feel elated and overwhelmed and joyful. I thought that was the Holy Spirit. Do you know why? It's because everybody around me was telling me it was the Holy Spirit. And because I was young, and because generally as young folks, we are reliant on our elders who should know more and are most likely right about any number of things, I just went with it. And this is what all of those people did too. All of them were taught that it was the Holy Spirit. None of them have ever been able to confirm it was the Holy Spirit, but because they're in a group and they're all feeling wonderful, and somebody saying this is the Holy Spirit, it becomes, yes, it must be. It's exactly the same as a number of psychological experiments that I love. Like, for example, if you pay a bunch of actors to stand in an elevator and face the back wall, so they're not facing the door, they just face the back wall. And then you go up a floor, somebody gets on the elevator and they want to face the door. That's the normal thing. You get in the elevator, you turn around, you face the door so you're ready to get out. And everybody else is facing the back wall. We've done studies that show people will turn around and face the back wall. They will be compliant. I don't see that anything more than that is necessary to explain.
Can I ask you something?
Feels. Sure.
So there's many kids that have like died for 3 or 4 minutes in surgery and have gone up to heaven, and these little kids have known nothing about Jesus Christ. But like these kids, they come back to earth and they tell people about seeing Jesus in heaven. There was a girl that even painted a picture of Jesus because she said that she saw the real face of Jesus. With all of the other religions in the world, nobody has said that they've gone up to when they've died.
Maxine, you're going to have to, I hope you forgive me. I don't think you're for real. Because what you've done now is you have come up with one elementary accusation after another, after another, after another, all of which are demonstrably false. So first of all, near-death experiences.
How?
I'm literally explaining to you. So near-death experiences have run the gamut. There are people who've reported, people tend to report religious iconography that is similar to or identical to the religion that they grew up in. It is not always reports of Jesus. You've just only been able to hear the reports of Jesus. Second of all, what they report is not consistent. Third of all, on a number of occasions, for example, the one with Eben, what's his name, they have come forward and admitted that it was a lie. And including, there's no way to confirm that any of these stories are in fact actually true. In much the same way that once upon a time, when people talked about aliens, they would talk about octopus monsters and robots and all kinds of stuff. And eventually, when people started telling the stories that got attention about little gray almond-eyed or dark almond-eyed aliens, that became the standard for telling these stories. I reject the claim that there are people who knew nothing about Jesus in heaven who came back and talked about that. I find it absurd that anyone who could communicate and who lives, for example, in the West, has never heard anything about Christianity or Jesus, the most dominant religion in the West. So you seem to be someone who hears stories and then doesn't investigate to find out if they're true, because almost any factual assertion you have made today has been false. And when we point it out, you just accept it and move on to the next thing. So there's a lot about this call that feels really weird.
Although I will say Maxine sounds exactly like I would have sounded when I called you.
That may be. I just want to express that I have concerns because it's like we shoot down one thing and we get something else. We shoot down that and we get something else. And all I'm asking is, how can we tell whether or not there is anything divine? Because I don't think there is.
And why don't you think that?
Because I haven't been presented with evidence to warrant such a position.
Okay.
The same answer I gave last time you asked.
Well, in order to believe that Jesus is real, you have to have some sort of faith. And what I'm guessing is that you don't have like any faith to believe that Jesus is real, correct?
No, Maxine, I don't have faith, and I don't need faith to believe that Jesus is real. I already told you I was willing to accept he was real. I don't believe he was divine, but faith is not a path to truth. Faith is for the gullible. Faith is the excuse people give when they believe things without a good reason. So what we're looking for is a reliable path to truth. Is faith a reliable path to truth?
Yes.
Okay. So could I claim, based on faith, that you know more about this subject than I do, or that I know more about this subject than you do? Could I make those claims on faith? Both of them?
Most likely.
Okay. If I can make two completely opposite claims based on faith, then faith isn't a reliable path to truth, is it?
No.
Okay.
But like the thing is, if I'm going on a roller coaster and I have faith that this roller coaster is going to take me safe, like to the end of the roller coaster, then I have faith that I'm going to be safe. Versus if you don't have faith, then like you're not going to be saved by Jesus. So like
no. When I get on a roller coaster,
why don't you have faith?
When I get on a roller coaster, I don't have faith. I have confidence that is supported by the evidence. I know about how roller coasters are constructed. I know that I'm at an amusement park. I know that these things are insured. I can look up the risk rate, how many failures they have, how many accidents they have. I'm not operating based on faith. I have a reasonable expectation that is based on evidence.
Okay.
So how can we be confident that Jesus is in fact God?
Because in the Bible, Jesus eats many things, and in the Bible too, Jesus fulfills his prophecies.
Did you say Jesus eats many things?
No, I said that Jesus fulfills his prophecies.
What did you say before fulfills prophecy? Because it sounded like you said Jesus eats many things.
No, I said Jesus does many things.
Okay, Jesus does many things. So how do we know that
Yes.
what the Bible says is true?
Because people wrote it.
Okay. Did people write other things that aren't true?
Yes.
So the fact that people wrote it is not in any way an indicator of whether it's true, right?
No.
So when I ask, how do we know the Bible's true? Your answer of because people wrote it, that's not an answer. It's not a viable answer. So how do we know the Bible's true?
It just sounds like you don't have a lot of faith, my guy.
It just sounds like you're not for real, my girl. I don't have any faith. I literally just
Why
described
don't you have faith?
because faith is not a path to truth. Faith is useless. Faith is how we lie to ourselves. Faith is the excuse we give when we don't have a good reason. I want to believe things for good reasons, not because they feel good, not because somebody taught me, not because I'm trusting in authority, but because it's actually true.
Maxine, are you a Mormon?
No, I'm a Christian.
Okay, Mormons think they're Christians, and that's fine. We don't need to do it. But if a Mormon comes up to you and says, I felt the burning in my bosom, I felt the burning in my bosom, that is how the Book of Mormon is affirmed, and that is one of their doctrines, right? When you feel it in your chest, then that's how you know it's true. And if like a dozen Mormons came up to you and told you that, would you consider any of that to be a good reason to become a Mormon?
No.
What about if
because I have my own beliefs.
Okay, but but you understand that it's the same justification, right? They're saying I have faith that the Book of Mormon is true, and you're saying I have faith that Jesus is true. And if we're going by count in the world, it's not going to be long before Islam is larger than Christianity. So if we're taking a vote, show of hands, you should believe that Islam is true because they also have a faith in the Quran. So you understand that faith can lead you to any of those things, right? And you don't think that those are good reasons for other faiths. So did you happen to be born into the lucky right one, or how do we know?
I was personally born into Christianity.
I guessed that. That may have been a presumption on my part, but I guessed that. Do you think that you got lucky and were born into the right one, and the other people just have faith in the wrong thing? All right.
I don't know what song that was, but a while ago in chat, even before I announced to everybody that I thought Maxine was a fraud, I pointed out in chat that I expect that Maxine is a fraud. Here's how you tell, or here's how I tell. Maxine was very good at when we interrupted, for clarity, to not try to interrupt back and not complain about it. Maxine, every single time she made a point, it was a cartoonish, you could Google common apologetics and probably get a list like that, probably in an order like that. And it was a complete list of ridiculous claims that take just a couple of seconds to debunk in many cases. And every single time she would accept it and then just move on to the next one. I could be wrong. Maybe Maxine is incredibly sincere. I think the fact that she clearly tried to play some music there as I don't even know what song that was. Somebody in chat probably knows, and it'll probably be relevant. So if you're the person in chat who knows what song they were trying to troll us with, or whether it was just be like like an attempted copyright strike or whatever, I don't know. The thing is, I'm not mad. Whether Maxine's real or not, as Paul was saying, she was saying things that were similar to what we would have said at some point. And everything that she said is something that somebody out there believes is true and real. And she's absolutely right. I don't have a lot of faith. As far as I'm aware, I actively try to make sure I don't ever operate from faith. I have trust and I have confidence. And I want that trust and confidence to be warranted. Somebody said they think it was a deicide song. Interesting.
Though I never believed in relics, because relics are stupid.
Yeah. It's like, here's a piece of wood that comes from Jesus' cross. How can you tell? Well, you could tell by the way the nails went in. Can you? First of all, we have no idea how the nails necessarily went into any of them.
Nope.
And we definitely don't know how the nails went into Jesus is different from all the rest of them. And for these little relics that are out there, do they all have a nail hole? How many nails did they? Was he like a pincushion? And it's just, all of this is, you want to play your Bible? Because the Bible, there you go. Because for the Bible tells me so. This is the same thing. It's for the Bible tells me so. For the relic hawkers tell me so. For the apologists tell me so. It was like everything. We've got the cross, we've got the robe, we've got the crown of thorns. We literally have none of those things. And if we had a cloak, let's say we had a crown of thorns, what could you ever do to prove that this was the crown of thorns that was placed on Jesus' head? I don't see any way to know that at all. And yet, despite that obvious massive flaw, which is right up there with there's not a real difference between God is everything and God is nothing levels of confusion about reality, despite that massive flaw, people bought into it.
I do think, Matt, that if you were to take blood, if there was still viable DNA on the thorn, and if you were able to test it and say that it had one chromosome was definitely female and one chromosome was like something we've never seen before, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it still wouldn't prove what they're saying.
No, but it would be very cool to find, this was a some kind of hybrid of a creature we don't know and a human lady. That'd be interesting. That'd be a cryptid story, maybe.
Yep. Evidently, today is Blackadder Day in my head, because I'm reminded that there's a scene from Blackadder the First, or just Blackadder, where somebody comes in with religious relics and like Baldric's like, oh yeah, I got a dozen of those. Here's just so-and-so's finger and the other thing. And they're just mocking the fact that this is an obvious scam.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. In Blackadder Season 1, Episode 3, the Archbishop, the show mocks religious relics through a comical, fraudulent trade. Edmund attempts to profit from fake holy items, including claimed shrouds of Turin, wine from the wedding at Cana, and splinters from the cross, alongside absurd carpentry items. This is why I don't think that Maxine was for real. I do appreciate the call. I hope that if Maxine was sincere, that the call was helpful. I think playing the song at the end was basically, yeah, I've been busted.
I think so.
Yeah. Which is cool. I'm glad you had fun. Now go do your homework. All right. Anatoly is calling from New York. Anatoly's theist, pronouns are him, says most people turn away from religious teachings because, and I'm not even going to finish reading it. Anatoly, how do you know why most people turn away from religious teachings?
Well, I wouldn't say maybe I know why most people turn away. I guess I could say that I know why I turned away from them.
I'll say you're a theist, right? So you're leaving religion but maintaining a God belief.
Well, no, I came back to it after. I had left, let's say, I didn't grow up in a religious family. I'm like Ashkenazi Jewish, and we grew up in Eastern Europe. We came here. My mom was never really religious. We didn't go to synagogue. We didn't, I didn't have any religious teachings in like present around me while I was growing up.
So at some point you gave it up, or you became unconvinced, and then later you became convinced again. Did you become convinced of a different version of God?
It wasn't so much a different version of God. It's just like I feel like I started to understand it differently, and I started to realize that the scrutiny that I was putting on factual stuff wasn't directed correctly. I'd say
Really?
something like that.
So,
Yes.
like, I'm a stickler for factual stuff, and I care more about whether something's true than whether it feels good. So, do you have some
Sure.
evidence-based argument that can point us to whatever God you're advocating for?
Sure. I guess it would be like if you're reading if you were reading a fairy tale and the fairy tale had a moral, it doesn't necessarily have to be true in order for the moral to be true, if that makes any sense. So I feel
Okay.
like our ancestors
But if I
wrote
said
these stories, yes.
no, I'm asking for reasons to believe in a God. You're somebody who believes there actually is a God, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so
there are plenty of fairy tales that have morals. I accept that these
Yes.
stories are trying to teach us things, but I don't believe there was actually a big bad wolf.
absolutely, I agree with that as well. Yes.
And yet you're calling in
We're on
to
the same
say that
page.
I don't believe that, first of all, the morals that are taught by religion or religions are always good. But also, I don't think they're from something real, but you do. So that's what we need to get to.
Sure. I would say that it's almost like an evolutionary pressure that we're living under, that's on top of us, that slowly guides us towards being better. And the reason that we are slowly guided in that direction is because over time, the more humanity has done these things, the better everything became for everybody around us.
Okay, I feel like I'm speaking a completely different language. I asked for what evidence-based argument you have for an actual personal God, and you said it's kind of like an evolutionary pressure we're living under. I don't accept that is in any way an evidence. I don't accept that is in any way an evidence-based argument for an actual personal God.
Well, I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways that's how it's described, at least in the Bible. It's described as
I don't.
as an
Why should
omnipotent
any of
force
us?
that
Why
guides
should
us towards the good.
Anatoly? I don't give a fuck what the Bible says until you give me a reason to give a fuck what the Bible says. But what I asked was, do you have an evidence-based argument for a personal God? I don't need to hear about evolutionary pressures, and I don't need to hear about what you think the Bible says. What is the evidence-based argument for a personal God?
And when you say a personal God, you mean like a God that I believe in? Or a God that like
a thinking agent being that people can interact with?
Well, I guess I would say that you can I would say that God is described as almost reality. At least God the Father is described as reality around
I'm
us
done.
in the Bible.
So Anatoly, we already had a
Yeah.
caller, and I don't like it, but we've already talked at length today about how universe, just saying that God is synonymous with the cosmos isn't super helpful.
Well, God the Father. Well, God the Father. There's three.
Fair enough, but
So,
you understand how just defining that to
Prove
saying
there's
that
three.
it is.
well, there's three. There's God the Father. There's the Son, and then there's the Holy Spirit or Ghost.
Yeah,
Like
I
when
know
I
what
was
they're
younger.
called. I asked you to prove them.
Well, I mean, I would say just looking around, it's hard to.
I'm going to go
say
look
that
around. You're up, Paul. I got to get a drink.
They don't exist. Because, okay, so if God the Father is described as the universe around us, God the Son is described as the truth within it, especially the spoken truth, which I think we both agree is important, right? That's basically the basis of your argument, is that the spoken truth needs to be said out loud.
So no, let's pause, Anatoly. What do you mean when you say truth? Because I have a very specific definition when I say truth. What do you mean when you say truth?
Something that is objectively true.
What does that mean? You just added the word objectively to a word I asked you to define. So what's a dog? And I say objectively dog, that doesn't mean anything.
Something that could
Go
be
ahead.
measured and looked at in multiple instances by multiple different people, and still the same thing would come up, the same answer. I would say that that's objectively true.
It's not terrible. Sure. I mean, I say the truth is that which conforms to reality as adjudicated by predictive power, and that I think that you and I are not dissimilar there. So you said that which of the Trinity is truth? The Son is truth.
The Son, yeah.
And
the path,
okay,
the way,
so
the light, those that live within
but
me.
no.
Prosper.
How is a son? How is any entity synonymous with adjudicating how well a proposition conforms to reality? Because you agreed to that definition, adjudicating how well a proposition conforms to reality. How can an entity be the same as an adjudication process?
So, okay, so what you're saying is, how could a human person be basically the truth?
How could
and
any
a human
entity,
person?
any even entity you can
Anything.
imagine,
Well,
how is an entity the
I mean,
same as?
what I'm saying is, it was a story that was written by our ancestors to represent this thing, and I'm not saying that only. I'm not saying that only Christianity is right. I'm saying that if you read Buddhist teachings, there's a lot of stuff that in it that is also true. The same way.
How does a human embody determining truth value of proposition? How are those? How even symbolically can those be the same thing?
I mean, I guess how would Jesus have embodied truth? I guess it would be by living only truthfully, which is very difficult. This is almost impossible. Nobody could do that. Like only truth.
What is your evidence that? Well, so what would even living truthfully be like, right? Because truthfully,
I don't know,
is just what's real and what isn't real. So what would?
So I guess.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, what does it even mean?
Living truthfully would be almost never lying. Never lying to your mom, never lying to your parents, never lying to society,
saying
never
only,
lying to maybe even your enemy.
So living truthfully means saying words that are only correct,
that you think are the truth. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, like, you know, when you're 5, what do you know? But generally speaking, if you were to only react with the world in a truthful way, then you would be saint-like, and you would probably.
How so? How if is it? Did Jesus walk up to people and say, "Hey, you're ugly"?
Well, I don't know.
Because that might be truthful, right?
If he was asked, I guess if he was asked if somebody was ugly, he probably would tell them. I assume, or he'd find a tactful way to say it.
So, like saying, I'm not sure it is actually virtuous to say only to say things that are only correct, right? Like that's not a great definition of virtue.
I would say that it is. I would say that that's probably the ultimate virtue, and it's very difficult to fulfill.
Does that mean you should tell somebody that somebody else is planning a surprise party for them?
I mean, not unless they ask you. I assume, and you know, there are. I guess Jesus wouldn't be
only
if
they ask. Okay, so you only tell the truth if you're specifically asked, rather than if you just know.
So would a virtuous person tell?
I can hear you laughing.
Who was very disagreeable, and he would actually tell people all the time the truth. And
is he
was
a saint?
Hated amongst all my friends, but I appreciated him because when
you did, but other people didn't.
So Anthony, if the ICE agent comes to me and asks, if an ICE agent comes to me and asks if I saw so and so, or if the Nazi comes and asks if there's someone hiding in my house.
Well, again, it gets very complicated. So I don't know.
If it's complicated, then no. But you just told me. You just told me that never speaking a falsehood is the ultimate virtue, and I disagree that is
living a falsehood. I said living a falsehood. So not just speaking it out loud, but like literally living the truth, whatever it is you think the truth is.
And so So what you're
No.
telling me is if there was a historical Jesus, and if that historical Jesus genuinely believed that he was the second part of the Trinity, that he was virtuous
Yeah.
in spreading that misconception.
What if somebody genuinely believed that it was permissible to own people as slaves?
I think people did genuinely believe this for a very long
So,
time.
so
and I
they
think
were
that-
saints.
yeah.
So they were saints while they were advocating for slavery, as long as they generally believed it.
To an extent, I would say yes, but that doesn't mean they were right.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they were
Uh,
right. What I'm saying is
okay.
ultimately the universe is leading us away from that.
Then I don't care if somebody's a saint. Then I don't care if somebody's a saint. Then I don't care if somebody's a saint, and I don't care about your opinions of stuff. You have a completely useless definition of seemingly everything. I'm trying to get to, you think there's a God. I'm assuming it's like the triune Christian God, right?
I mean, I feel like that's the best explanation for a God at the moment.
Wow, it's
I'm not
so
saying
weird.
that
I
that's the
ask a
ultimate-
yes or no question, and instead of getting a yes or
Yeah.
no answer
Well, I
that
said
allows
yeah.
me, stop talking. Instead of getting a yes or no question that allows me to move forward with what I'm saying, instead you decide to give a dissertation about what you feel. I feel that it's, I didn't ask you if you thought it was the best explanation. I didn't ask you why you believed it. Earlier, I asked you why we should believe it, and you went on with evolutionary pressure and all kinds of stuff instead of presenting the evidence-based argument for the God. What is the evidence-based argument that you can present for the Christian God?
Well, I guess that if you were to follow the teachings, right, the way that I understand them, I feel like you would ultimately live a better life. And so would the people around you.
Anatoly, stop. I was a Christian for many, many years. What did I get wrong?
I'm not sure. I don't.
You don't know.
I'm sorry.
So you're not telling me a way that you're not providing an evidence-based argument for the existence of a God. You're simply saying it's your opinion that if you follow God the way you do, that your life will be better. Well, that's not an evidence-based argument for anything.
You could ask me how
I'm sorry, I'm still fucking talking.
I'm sorry. I don't get it.
Then stop talking. I'm gonna fucking mute you if you don't stop it.
Okay. Noted.
Thank you. If I live a life and my life feels better, does that mean the thing I devoted my life to is true and real? Yes or no?
Not necessarily, but also, like, I don't think the two things
I'm
are
so fucking done with you when I say yes or no, and you're like, no, not necessarily, and then you keep talking. It is an undeniable fact. Stop talking. Okay, I'm going to mute you. Stop talking. It is an undeniable fact that the mere fact that you perceive your life to be better because you are worshiping X does not mean that X exists. Your life can be improved by a comforting lie. This is a known fact. There's no reason to add caveats or anything else. When I say, does an improved life mean that the thing you think improved it is the thing that actually improved it? The answer is no. There is no tie, no causal link between those two until you demonstrate it. You might think, drunk people are often much happier than sober people while they're drunk. That doesn't mean they're better. That doesn't mean that alcohol is the true path. If you think that your way of living is better, what if you're wrong? What if it turns out, like, for example, I thought I was better as a Christian. I absolutely thought my life was better as a Christian. I was wrong. I was completely, totally, undeniably wrong. My life is so much better now that I've given up fairy tales and myths, now that I base my views based on evidence and empathy, now that I support the very things that the Christianity I was raised in was opposed to. The Christianity of the Bible advocates for flaws and falseness from the very first chapter, getting the order of events wrong, to the notion of God playing favorites, 2, a comedy of failures, 2, destroying the entire world because you're an incompetent God, 2, that failing again, and then letting things keep getting worse, to advocating for slavery, to advocating for inequality between the genders, to advocating for these are the chosen people and fuck the rest of them, to inherited sin, to 4th generations, to 10th generations, to bats or birds, to then I'm going to incarnate myself so that I can come down, preach for a few years things that aren't true and aren't helpful, and then die so that I can be a sacrifice to myself to serve as a loophole for rules that I'm in charge of. And then I'm going to disappear again so that there isn't good evidence. So people like you call in with their feels, and when asked to present an evidence-based argument for God, they utterly fail, twist and turn, and engage in nothing but caveats and deflection. I want to know what reason anybody could have to think that there is in fact a real God. And the fact that it makes you feel better, or the fact that you think your life is better, is not evidence that there is in fact a real God. And I would be willing to bet that on the moral positions where you and I might disagree, mine are better. I'll bring you back now.
Okay. That was a lot to respond to, but I guess I would respond with the following. So my reason for thinking that there is a God is, like I said, there is I feel like almost like a moral layer to the universe that's actively guiding us towards the good. And I would say if there is no God, then why would that exist?
I don't believe you. I don't agree that there's a moral layer to the universe. What is this moral layer? How can I find it?
Well, that's what I meant by the evolutionary pressure that's actively guiding us to make things better and act right towards each other and actively pursue.
I feel no pressure, evolutionary or otherwise, that I can tell, to find or discover a moral layer to the universe. I think that the universe is completely impartial and apathetic and does not have any way to care about whether or not we're moral. And that's why it's up to us. I think the universe is not inherently fair. And that's why fairness is something that we work towards, because it's something we value. Not because there's an evolutionary pressure for that, but even if there were an evolutionary pressure and a moral layer to the universe, those aren't evidence of a God.
Why not? So that part I don't understand. So I could agree with you that maybe, like, it's hard to see the fact that we're being actively guided towards the good through the actions that work out in the long run. But I wouldn't say that that's not a reason.
Anatoly,
to not be God, I would say that that would be the reason for God, because why would the universe be created in such a way where we're acting
Prove
right?
the universe was created.
It does work.
Prove the universe was created.
I'm sorry?
You just said the universe was created. You need to prove that.
I mean, I would. Doesn't science believe that the universe was created?
No,
does not.
There was no, that the Big Bang theories.
Big
no
Bang
longer...
isn't creation, and Big Bang isn't an origin. Big Bang is an expansion.
Sure. Okay.
There were at no point does cosmology posit there was nothing.
So everything was a singular entity, and then it expanded into.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. Anatoly, what does good mean? What's your definition of good? Because I want to go back, because
sure, okay.
The three of us having a discussion about cosmology is the biggest waste of the internet there is. So,
sure.
So,
okay.
What does good? You said we're moving toward good. What is the definition of good?
The definition of good would be something that works out over a long period of time, not just for me, but for me, my family, the people around me, my society, and ultimately, I guess, the environment.
So it sounds like you're describing well-being. Is that a reasonable proxy for what you're saying?
I guess well-being, but yeah, I guess
so,
well-being. I don't know.
So I guess
I
would typically say
example that was given wouldn't be good because. Like, yeah, you feel good while you're intoxicated, but ultimately it destroys your life. so it doesn't work out
Maybe,
over time.
maybe it doesn't.
Maybe, yeah. That's not. Alcohol is neither universally, in my view, it's neither universally harmful nor universally beneficial. So I wouldn't make a statement about alcohol that way. Would you agree that good is in general some combination or having to do with increasing well-being and decreasing suffering? Could you and I agree that good is in the proximately to that? Okay,
especially over time, yeah. Especially if you say not just suffering in the moment, but like throughout your life,
long term well-being and long term suffering. Okay, what do we need a God for if we agree that that is the goal?
Well,
what does God add to the picture?
Okay, sure. I would say that the reason that I believe in a God is because the way that we use to identify this and the actions that we take to have this happen work out. And that's the way the universe
you can't
is
identify
made.
that something is, you need a God to identify whether an action is harmful?
Well, ultimately, the universe needs to be built in a certain type of way or made in a certain type of way or exists.
Yeah, it seems like it's made for suffering. It sure does. It sure seems like it's made for suffering.
Sure. And it all right.
So, but Anatoly, you're not answering my question. Do you need a God to identify whether a proposed course of action is going to be long-term harmful or long-term beneficial? Do you need a God to make that determination?
So I would say no, you don't need a God, but that doesn't mean that one doesn't exist.
It doesn't, but you just said that is. You said that a God is required for that, and I don't see how a God is required.
I didn't say it's required. I didn't say it's required. I said that's why I believe there is one. Because when I look at the universe and I look at the fact that ultimately, when I act good as the best that I believe at the moment, and I'm not saying that I know what I'm doing.
Sure, you have imperfect. We all have imperfect information at the time, but I'm just. Your God adds your God. You see how for me, your God adds literally nothing of value to this moral utopia that you want to move towards.
That's just God the Father. What I'm saying is it's a complicated story. There's more to it than just what what I mean is that's one of the gods. The other God is truth, right? Which is Jesus.
Well, we talked about how truth. No, we talked about how truth. You agreed to my definition of truth, which was what conforms to reality, and you don't need an entity to determine whether something conforms to reality. So what's the third entity, and why?
What I'm saying is
what's the third
entity? Our ancestors, right?
I can't take Anatoly seriously anymore with the laughter and the breathing and the flipping around.
I am.
Oh, it's just God the Father, but there's another God, and that's truth. There's nothing biblical or Christian about saying that the second entity in the fucking Trinity is truth.
I'm sorry, I don't understand why you get so upset.
I get so upset because I think you're a dishonest fraud, because we're sitting here trying to honestly. I'm getting ready to fucking explain it to you if you wouldn't say how. You ready?
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay. The reason I think you're a dishonest fraud is because, well, like many callers, when I ask you for something, when I ask you a question, instead of answering that question, you go on to preach whatever sermon you want. But now we're looping back to where we're repeating the exact same thing. I'm going to mute you because I can't stand to listen to the breathing anymore. Now we're back to where we're looping back to where you just keep saying the same things. Oh, you were raised in a Jew of some stripe, and now you're a biblical God, but a triune God, but it's the God that's just God the Father. So what you're describing is not identifiable as any Orthodox version of Christianity. And as somebody who studied this since the age of 5, I can speak with a little bit of authority that you have a version of Christianity that is not biblical in the slightest and seems to be as personal and esoteric as you can possibly make it, which makes sense a little bit because it seems that you care more about whether something feels good or feels right than whether it's true, which is why when I asked you if the fact that you think your life. So first of all, here's a question. Let me make this really easy, Anatoly. I'm going to wait until you're off mute and you've got the beep. Here's the question. Does the fact that you think your life is better mean your life is actually better?
I guess no, but that's
Okay.
not an unfair question, I think.
It's an unfair question?
I would say it's leading the witness.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I don't, how is it an unfair question to say, does the fact that you think something is true mean it's true?
Because it doesn't ultimately answer anything. It's like the
No.
alcoholic
It's a
example you gave.
question. It doesn't fucking answer anything. And by the way, it's a question that is designed to teach you, but you seem to be immune to it. There's nothing unfair about saying, does the fact that you are convinced of something mean that it's true? That is there to waken you up to the fact that the mere fact that you think something is true or better does not tell you anything about whether it is true or better. You don't seem to understand that. So I asked a question to see if we were at least in agreement. If I could at least, I asked a question. I asked the question. I asked the question so that I could see if there was agreement, and you decided to answer it and then claim it was unfair. How is it unfair?
It's unfair because I could pose the same question to you as an atheist.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
How does you actively think that there is no God make your life better?
So first of all, I don't actively think that there is no God necessarily. And that's not the same question. If you asked me, does the fact that I believe something mean it's true? I would say no. You can't even ask me the same question back. Your brain is so polluted. Your brain is so polluted. Your brain is so, I'm going to mute you. Your brain is so polluted by your irrational religious beliefs and your desperation to find truth somewhere, everywhere, and make it a God, even though you don't seem to give a fuck about truth. That when you say you could pose the same question to me, no, you can't. You just proved you are incapable of honestly interacting and asking me the same question. Instead, you tried to respin it. You, on several occasions, said, well, that doesn't mean that a God doesn't exist. And I didn't interrupt because Paul was talking, and I already interrupt Paul way more than I should. But you said that doesn't mean that God exists. None of us claimed that anything we've said in any way confirms that God doesn't exist. We have no burden of proof to prove that a God doesn't exist. The people who are claiming that gods do exist have a burden of proof. And when those people decide to respond with, well, your case doesn't mean that God doesn't exist, correct. And it demonstrates that you don't have the first clue what you're talking about. So when you try to ask the same question back to me, you can't. Instead, you assume and assert a straw man version of what your brain thinks my position is because you don't listen and you don't ask and you don't have any comprehension of this subject, and then try to spin that. But yes, I would say that if in fact I actively believed, as I do for some God, there are some gods that I actively believe do not exist. Does the fact that I actively believe they don't exist mean that it's true? No. It's not an unfair question. You just aren't equipped to deal with the consequences of the answer.
I just don't see how it's relevant, was my point. And I could ask you the same question. I was just being more direct. But it's okay.
It's not okay.
That's what you were alluding to. I mean, that's what you were alluding to when you were asking me the question.
It is not. That's what you were assuming he was alluding to.
You were saying, basically, the question was that if I believe something makes my life better, right, and it's not true, does it matter? Like,
no, that's not what the fuck I was asking. This is, oh my God, this is going to be the best clip ever. In your attempt to, I'm going to mute you because I know you're getting ready to interrupt. In your attempt to ask what your brain thinks the question was, you got it wrong again. You can't even frame it a simple, does the fact that you believe your life is better mean that it is? You can't even say that. Instead, you respun it in another way to get to, does it matter? I didn't say anything about whether it matters. Okay. Go ahead, Anatoly.
I mean, I wasn't asked a question.
Yes, I know, because I no longer care
I
to
guess
ask you
I don't.
questions. I figure I'd just give you the floor so that you could say whatever nonsense you're going to say, because you're never, ever, ever going to give us an evidence-based argument for God.
Okay, I mean, I gave you the best one I think I had. I guess
No, you
you
did not
don't
present an
agree with it.
evidence-based argument for God. You gave us your opinion that there's a moral layer to the universe. You said that is the reason you believe,
you
and then
agree
you
with
give a
that?
different. Why? No, I don't agree. I fucking literally told you I do not agree. There's a moral layer to the universe. I specifically asked you how I can find and identify this moral layer to the universe. Are you fucking
I would
listening
say
at all?
evolution. Yeah,
Are you
I
fucking
would say
listening at
probably the
all?
evolutionary
Are
process.
you listening at all?
I am. Yes.
How can we demonstrate
Sort
that
of.
there's a more how can we demonstrate that there's a moral layer to the universe?
I would say the evolutionary process.
Go the fuck away.
Okay.
There's the laughter. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. I hope you heard. I hope all of you heard.
I
This is
never know the
another of
difference
those
between
laughs.
nervous laughter and just laughter. But,
True.
And fun fact, in the court of law, when you're cross-examining someone, you're absolutely allowed to ask leading questions. So, that was not a reasonable objection.
Still, though, it's like, I don't know. It is absolutely frustrating. I guess we should have asked what should count as evidence? Like, because what he said was that he believes because he thinks there's a moral layer to the universe, which I don't see. I would say we have thoughts about morality.
Yes.
I don't know that that's a moral layer to the universe, but we also don't agree on those thoughts. I mean, Paul and I are going to agree on a good chunk of morality, but there are probably still things that Paul and I disagree on.
Probably.
Does that mean I'm right and Paul's wrong? Probably. Oh, I'm kidding, obviously. What it means is that saying there's a moral layer to the universe, if it's just about we think about morality, means there's a cooking layer to the universe. There's a filmmaking layer to the universe. There's a storytelling layer to the universe. These are all things we think about. These are things we do. That to me, if you want to talk about something being meaningless, saying that is a layer to the universe is pretty close. It's not entirely meaningless because I at least grasp it. It's not like Fergalburgle, Manergalburgle. That's meaningless. Although we have injected Fergalburgle with some meaning on occasion. We can imbue things with that. All right. Here we go. Let's try this again. I don't necessarily. Oh, yes. Yes. How do I pronounce your name, sir?
My name is Tofeas. I am Greek.
Tofeas is Greek, but calling from Germany. Pronouncer he has a theory about revelation. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Before I begin, I really want to ask something before I actually tell you what I came for. I need to know something more about you. You told me the guy with the glasses. Oh, you both have glasses. The guy below. You told me.
You don't.
Said,
you don't need to know anything about me. You believe what you believed before you ever knew me or heard of me.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what I believe.
It does matter what you believe. You're calling.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you, Tofeas, because I think that you're a fake too. But that might be a bit because I'm in this mode. You called in to say you have a theory about revelation. First of all, I'm not sure that we give a shit about your theory about revelation or anybody else's, but it's at least a potentially interesting discussion. There's nothing about me or my life that is relevant to your theory about revelation. And if there is, I need you to tell me what's relevant about my life to your theory right now.
Because you said you were a Christian, that's why, nothing else. But I can go to my point. I don't want to bother you. I know you.
Tofeas, you're saying that whether or not I was a Christian is relevant to your theory about revelation?
Because if you are familiar with what I'm about to tell you, that's why that will help me whether I will go in details or not. That's what I wanted to know.
Is the fact that I am a former believer relevant to your theory of revelation? Yes or no?
No.
Then I was fucking correct when I said it wasn't relevant. Please listen to me. It moves the show along faster. Present your issue.
I apologize. Okay, I want to ask you something.
I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, before I begin, have you ever heard Satan in today's age?
I'm going to mute you and you're going to listen to me very, very, very carefully. I desperately want to have this conversation with you, and I would very much like for Paul to have this conversation with you. If you don't start presenting your case when I take you off mute, I will hang up on you. If you again say, before I make my case, I want to do this other thing, I will hang up on you. Do the thing you said you'd fucking do, or do nothing. Here we go.
Okay. In Revelation 20, it speaks about the war, Gog and Magog. There is also another war in chapter 19 that speaks about Armageddon. So my theory is that those two wars are the same from different perspectives, because there are two impossibilities that make it to be two different wars impossible. So if you want me to prove you how I know it, I can tell you, but where I'm going to point is if the war is won, that means Satan is not active, because if you read at the beginning, it says that Satan is bound. The reason I want to make this case is the reason today's age we don't have people actually actively preaching what the word of God actually is. It's because nobody has the truth. And the reason we need God is because, how can I say, I'm looking for a word. The reason because we need God is because He's not active to make us choose Him. We need to understand that we need Him. Before I continue, I would like to hear your thoughts.
What do I need God for? I don't even think there is a God.
Because without God, who will bring justice in where injustice occurs? Without God, how can you know that you're right or I'm right or you are wrong and I'm wrong? Who gives...
I know. I can know, like, if we look at a fact in the world, the way we tell which of us is right is based on the evidence. God is irrelevant. I don't think there is a God. Why do I need a God?
Your question was about about right and wrong. Or did I?
No, it wasn't. My question was, why do I need a God? Which I've now asked twice, and it's like you heard something else. So why do I need a God?
Because without Him, regardless of whether you believe or not, you will end up in a place that there will be no justice. And I'm not talking about the place we are now. Well, so regardless of whether you believe what I say or not.
Tophaeus, you're saying I need God to avoid some kind of hell, right?
Hell is not the one you might think it is.
I literally asked this. You're going to piss me the fuck off. I said, did you hear me say some kind of hell?
No, hell is being at the absence of God.
Did you hear me say some kind of hell? I'm in some kind of hell right now because dipshits like you do not listen and do not answer the question they're asked. Are you saying that I need a God to avoid some terrible afterlife? Yes or no?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What do you say? Why do I need a God?
Yeah, you need God to have something better than you already have. You cannot find it in any religion in this world because nobody points you to God, they point you to them.
It sounds to me like you've now changed, because if I rewind a little bit, did it seem like to everybody else that he was talking about some kind of hell? But all right, so I need a God for something better. How can you prove that believing in a God gives me something better?
Don't you see how the world is around us? Wars, death, famine, everything goes crazy.
I see. Okay. death and famine and wars and stuff, you know what I see? I see lots of religion, lots of God claims, but I see people living longer and I see lots of things about the world being better. But the question I asked wasn't, hey, can you ask me a question that I can answer? The question I asked was for you to actually answer, which is to tell me, how can I know that believing in a God gets me something better?
That's something you have to understand it yourself.
No,
I cannot tell
Tophaeus,
you something that is in
you
your
are
heart.
you are calling in to claim that I need God to have something better. What is the something better what is the something better that I get from having a God?
Okay, when I called, I told to the guy who is in the call that I came to speak something about.
I'm going to mute you again. I shit you not. People who know me know that the worst thing you can do is to repeatedly refuse to answer the question that I'm fucking asking you, because I've done this for 20 years. I would say that while I don't have an expertise in any particular field, I'm definitely still an expert in this, except for one thing. I allow people like you to waste far more of my time and my audience's time than I sometimes should. For the last time, what is the something better that you think I will get by having a God? I'm going to unmute you now.
I can't give you that answer. You only
Then
know
you
this.
have nothing. Then you have nothing, sir. If I said, hey, you need to give me $1 million so that you'll get something better, and if you said, what's the something better? And I said, I can't tell you, then there's no reason for you to want to ask me for you to give me the $1 million, is there?
No, there is not.
No, which means there's no reason for me to give a fuck about a God that you can't defend.
Respectfully, I didn't come here to troll you.
Okay. I don't care about your respect. You've been disrespectful in a number of ways, and so have I. I need you to make a case for God or to fuck off. What are you going to do?
Okay, I'll give you one. You know that the Quran is not very close to Christianity. I mean, they have the Muhammad was illiterate, he couldn't write, so there is no possible way to have a real connection between the Bible and the Quran, because most likely when Muhammad wrote it, or not wrote it, the ones who wrote his words, you can see too many contradictions between the two books. But there is one strong connection happening from one book to the other that is very, it's not something that you could put it on chance to happen. It has to be something that reflects this outcome from one book to the other. The reason I wanted to speak about Revelation when I spoke about Revelation was to point out that when Satan was bound, before he was bound, Bible describes he has short time. So at this short time, you can see his reflection. He went to speak to the Muhammad. The Quran actually describes when he spoke to him that he was in fear, that he pressed him 3 times, he came close to death. But if you read the Bible, how actually
Tophaeus,
yes?
I don't think that anything in the Quran or anything in the Bible in relation to the spiritual realm is in any way justified for me to believe. So you are now sounding like, to me, someone who is describing whether Spider-Man can beat Batman.
Yes.
There is nothing I can say, or me, or anyone who will come to this call who will satisfy you based on what your topic is. And you will keep being angry with people who are coming here thinking they are dishonest. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. I'm not here to make fun of you. I'm not here to insult you.
Tophaeus, my follow-up question was to ask why I should care what the Quran or the Bible says. I wasn't going to, I'm just, right now, I have no reason to think that anything you're saying, until you've told me why one or other of those books I should care what they say, is you're way downstream. So I was actually trying to give you a chance to make me care.
Yeah, because the evidence you are looking there, it's that you see a reflection from one book that has no connection to the other, because the people who wrote the second book couldn't know what the people on the first book knew or wrote, because everything they did was based on what they heard. And there is a strongly connection.
Are
You said you need
are you
evidence.
telling me are you telling me that the authors of the Quran were unaware
Yes.
of the New Testament?
Not like they didn't have the writings to actually copy and do a great job about
Hold
that
on.
they are the continuation.
When do you think the Quran was written?
600 years after.
Okay. And you think was there any corner of the earth in the 6th century that didn't have written copies of the Bible?
If they did,
The New
they
Testament?
did their job. What can I say? Do you see that the Quran actually reflecting what the Bible says? I don't see it. Too many contradictions.
You just told me that the people who wrote the Quran couldn't know anything about what the New Testament authors wrote. And that
details.
seems ridiculous to me.
The details, of course. If they knew, why would there be any contradictions between the two books?
Why would there be? Because they didn't believe everything in the first book. They had a good reason to. Did Jesus die on the cross? One book says yes, one book says no. What do I don't think either book are reliable, but Jesus still definitely either died or didn't die on the cross. But that tells me nothing. Why the later one should be believed over the early one, or any of these connections? Help me out. Why?
Oh, okay. I can speak?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I said what I said was because one book points to the other that technically isn't actually a continuation, because
Yes.
the Bible actually reflects what.
Yes, much like the New Testament did to the Hebrew Bible.
Correct.
And the Book of Mormon did to the New Testament.
In Revelation 12, the dragon, Satan, was cast down. When you see previous encounters from an angelic coming down to the earth and giving prophecies, it's not the same encounter that Muhammad has, because the two books are not actually truly connected, because they don't form the same picture. You see something coming from one book reflected to the other, which is the panic of the angel trying to pressure Muhammad to actually prophesy because he didn't have time. You ask me something that is provable, that actually gives you a kind of hint that actually there is a God, because this connection, it wasn't intentional, but there is. You ask for proof. If that's not proof, there is nothing in this world that would convince you anyway. You already made your mind. If in your heart you don't need God, nothing I can say or anyone who will come in this call will convince you otherwise.
You're ascribing motive to me. Do you know my thoughts better than I know my own thoughts?
I don't know. But if you did, you wouldn't be so aggressive with me when I'm being honest with you.
There's levels of aggression have literally nothing at all to do with the truth value of what someone holds, right?
Yeah, but still, I'm respectful. I get to that the environment that people come and talk to you, it's very toxic. I didn't know it was like this. I've seen many calls with people who are also atheists having that kind of same problem. People are coming to troll, but I'm not here to troll you or insult you. I actually respect you. You're a human being.
Yes, but all I've done was point out that you are now saying that what I view as one work of fiction is in some way coincidentally connected to another work of fiction, and I'm tempted, although I don't want to drag the call on, to push back and say, well, this actually in the Bible all comes from Zoroastrianism and not from Judaism, because there's plenty of evidence that all of the spiritual warfare, all the spiritual realm stuff, isn't actually grounded in Judaism. It's more grounded in Hellenistic views and Babylonian views and Persian views that were of the people that kept taking over Jerusalem. So like these, what I view as entirely literary connections, that's what I was trying to express to you. These literary connections mean nothing to me. And I'm asking you, why should they mean something to me beyond literary connections?
Yeah, okay. Because what I'm giving you, it has nothing to do with what you just described. Because I'm giving you something that was never done before in the entire, like in any book ever. You see an emotional expression starting from Revelation, from one book, expressing and happening on the other book with a difference on 700 years. If you are Satan and you don't have time and you know you will be bound soon, you want to convince another group to actually continue your going against Christianity. Notice that Islam actually does the opposite and speaks about the opposite, that you need to be saved. You say you don't care, but this emotional outcome coming from one book to the other, it's not something you say, it's random. It's not based on history. We are talking about feelings, about someone being panicked.
What do you think that I think literary dependence means?
Dependence on what?
When I say the phrase literary dependence, what does that mean to you?
I have to be honest. I don't know what it means. I can speak English, but not to the point that I would understand what you're asking me.
Fair enough. Literary dependence is where something in an already established literary work, or even in a genre, a trope in a genre, influences a subsequent work. So, for example, all science fiction movies made after 1977, whether directly or not, were influenced by Star Wars, because Star Wars was a huge deal. I don't know if this in your culture, if that means anything to you, but in North America, it means something to us. Or, for example, all fantasy novels written after Lord of the Rings, whether directly or indirectly, were influenced by Lord of the Rings. So, from my perspective, the Quran cannot help but be literarily dependent on the largest religion and the official state religion of the largest empire.
What I will ask you is this, because from what I understand, without offending you, of course, I'm being open. I don't think you are interested to finding or actually learning something. I mean, you already made your mind. Possibly you're creating content. You want to hear other people talk, discussion. I get it.
Well,
you have
so
something
you are,
to do to pass your
do
time. But
do you know anything about me at all?
if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't be shutting down everything I'm giving you. Someone who is open, who is willing to listen, even things that he thinks that are not affecting him. But you told me you don't care about the Bible, you don't care about the Quran. How else would I actually help you to see there is God if you are actually denying the word that actually proves there is one?
I asked you to demonstrate that those words were from God, is what I asked you to do. I was a Christian for a long time. My life would be better right now. I would be able to restore relationships. I would be able to make a better living. I would have better relationships with lots of people. I would be able to live forever. I want Christianity to be true in the back of my head. That would be awesome. I have every reason to want Christianity to be true, but I cannot make myself believe it.
I can tell you something, but I don't think you will be able to believe it because I don't believe it, though I experience it. So, you know that nobody in this earth for 2,000 years has not solved the book of Revelation, right? It's a very complicated book. It's something like causes problems. I come from an Orthodox church, even though I don't identify as one anymore. And we find this book very problematic to the point many times I have heard priests discussing that the book should be removed because it's something that doesn't help the Bible at all.
The church fathers were not unanimous on this book being scripture at all. And we don't know who wrote it. It was a guy named John on the island of Patmos. Not necessarily the John that ever knew Jesus. We don't know. It's a fever dream.
I know what I'm about to tell you. It's going to sound like crazy, or maybe I'm far-fetched. Maybe I think too much of myself. I actually don't. It wasn't me who gave me that information. Where it came from and how I solved it, you won't believe me even if I told you. So I kind of managed to completely solve the entire book from the beginning to the end, knowing the full
Amazing.
story. But that
You
doesn't
need
matter.
to write a paper.
I already did. I cannot. I don't know what to do with it.
You don't know what you need to get it. You need to go to.
Should ask God.
Yeah, you
I
should
went
ask
to
God.
my church. I went to my church, and they thought I was demonized. They didn't even
Okay.
listen.
So, is that concerning to you at all that the people who believe the same things as you read your paper and were
They
not
didn't read it.
convinced? Oh, they didn't read it.
No,
see.
no. I went there. I
So-
told them what I had.
So you have various. So this is a very Gnostic conversation. All of a sudden, you have the special knowledge that even the people in your own denomination don't have, and
Nobody has.
and no one has. You, especially Tophias, have the special knowledge, and you were maybe hoping that we could help disseminate your special interpretation of a book that I think is a fever dream on our channel, and that would help.
What I want to say, the reason I know it's not mine, it's not something that I made it up in my mind, because I managed to prove something that came from a dream that I never even thought that it was possible. I mean, have you ever had anyone saying that in today's age and time, Satan is bound? How would I dream something that tells
Satan
me
is
about
bound? I
something
literally,
like this?
I was in a church that we bound Satan all the time. When the sound system broke down, people would bind Satan so that he would stop making the sound system stop working. So I have definitely heard hundreds of people say that they bound Satan or that Satan should be bound.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is after Muhammad, after what he did and the Quran happened, after that point and onwards, until today, fallen angels and demons are active, but Satan is bound. Bound.
You
What I
haven't
mean, bound is nowhere.
You have not demonstrated that there is a supernatural realm, let alone this other. Matt's got his hand up. I'm going to let Matt talk.
Why should we believe you when you say Satan is bound? I'm not even convinced that Satan is real. So you're claiming that something I don't think is real is no longer a threat when I didn't believe it was a threat in the first place. You keep saying, I'm still talking. You keep doing this. I would tell you, but you wouldn't believe me. That is your defense mechanism. That is how you convince yourself that you are rational when you are not. I want a rational reason to agree with you that Satan is bound. Can you do that?
Without using the book?
Use the book. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is, how do you know the book is true?
By your logic, I can't even use it because you're actually denying
No,
it.
sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You can use the book as long as you start by showing that the book is true.
Okay, then I will say this. If the book is false and it's a mystery, it's something that doesn't make sense, then the full solving of that entire book that makes complete and utterly sense would not be possible for me.
The book does not make complete. Which came first, Tophias, the earth or the sun?
According to what the Bible says, it's the earth, or do I get it wrong?
The Bible says the earth came first. Is that what actually happened?
If God creates the laws the way
I'm sorry, I asked a very simple, straightforward question. The Bible says the earth came first. Is that what actually happened? Yes or no?
That's what I believe, yes.
Then you are not in compliance with science or evidence, because science has the sun existing before the earth. So you're saying that science is wrong and you're right, and the Bible's right.
Science is wrong and God is right. That's two different things. I'm not claiming that I'm right.
And plants existed before the sun as well, which is fun because I'm not sure how they ate anything.
It's magic.
I mean, if you are able to create things and you give the laws and how they function, before it is complete, Why would it make any problems when you are the lawmaker?
So,
when you are
Topheus,
creating?
you are correct. If you are just willing to say that I will justify literally anything in this book, even though it is counter to all physical evidence that could ever be collected or observed or even rationally posited, then there's nothing Matt or I could do similarly to what you just said.
You throw out
You're
evidence
just,
of science.
yeah, it sounds like if the Bible said 2 + 2 is 5, it sounds like you would say, well, God can make 2 + 2 5, so I'm just going to go with it.
Is slavery morally permissible? Yes or no?
No, it's not.
The Bible says that slavery is morally permissible in Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, and in Deuteronomy. It goes through great detail about how you treat your Jewish slaves different than you treat your other slaves, and that you can beat the slaves as long as they don't die within a couple of days, and that they are your property that can be passed on to your children.
Yeah, just because they feel it's not right, that doesn't mean God doesn't feel the same way, even though he gave instructions into an era and time that was like this. I mean, imagine how we live today.
At no point does the Bible change it and say slavery is immoral.
Did it say it's moral?
It gave instructions on how to do it.
If God gives you permission on who, I'm sorry, if God gives you permission and says, you shall buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you, they shall be your money and an inheritance to your children. And God says, don't eat shellfish, don't pick up sticks on the Sabbath, then it's very clear that one is morally permissible and the other one is not allowed. You have an embarrassingly ridiculous defense of the Bible because you think you've got the answers and you think that the earth came before the sun because the Bible says so, but you don't think slavery is permissible, even though the Bible says so.
It doesn't say it. Just because I'm telling you how to live during times that is something very popular that's happening all over the place, that doesn't mean God accepts.
No. I'm sorry, but your stupidity is not going to be allowed here. If God can tell people that it's wrong to lie in some circumstances, that it's wrong to kill in some circumstances, why wouldn't he say slavery is immoral? If God can tell me not to wear fabrics of mixed fibers, or I am deserving of death, if God can proclaim that having gay sex is deserving of death, why doesn't God ever in the entire book say a negative word about slavery?
I'm not God. I cannot answer you that. You're asking
Yeah,
something.
you can't answer shit. You can't answer shit. All you can do is tell me what your opinion is, and you can't back any of it up. And you have now selectively decided that in your opinion, science is wrong and God is right on the order of events in the universe, which just make you, it's ironic that you are calling me on satellites orbiting the fucking earth that is younger than the sun, embarrassingly shitting on science. But now you want to pretend that you are right about the morals, even if your position conflicts with the Bible. You are a God unto yourself, sir. You are exactly what the Bible warns against. Professing yourself wise, you have been made a fool.
Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want.
To be honest, yeah, because I think you're misrepresenting why I'm here. I have to be honest, and I please.
No, I'm not misrepresenting why you're here. Maybe you're misrepresenting why you're here. This is a call-in show where the people who call in are calling in to defend their beliefs and to convince us that they are correct. Is that why you called in?
Okay.
Is that why you called in? Is that why you called in? Is that why you called in?
Can I tell?
I'm asking you. It's a yes or no fucking question. Is that why you called in?
No.
Then you shouldn't have called in, should you?
Why would your guy who connected me when I told him I thought you were two Christians talking, told me that they would be interested to listen what I had to say? What are you talking about? That's not even my mistake. That's not even my mistake.
It is your mistake.
Reiterating me. You are attacking
You
me
called
personally.
in. You called in to share your theory about a revelation, and that means that we get to cross-examine it. That's the purpose of the fucking show. This isn't come in and do a book report. This is not come in and do a book report of your esoteric, unfounded bullshit. I got better things to do than to listen to that. This is about you defending your beliefs. If you're not interested in defending them, hang up. If you are interested in defending them, stay here. He hung up. This is wild. All right. I'm going to try this as a sort of palate cleanser in the last 5 minutes. I don't know what's going to happen here because neither the call screener nor me understand what's going on. So Luke's calling from New Jersey. Pronouns are him. Luke's an atheist. And this is something about an is-ought thing, and I'm already lost by how it's typed up. So Luke, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, I had a difficulty explaining it because it's a little bit of a nuanced thing.
We only have 4 minutes.
Essentially, all right, sounds good. So, essentially, when you follow the naturalist claim, right? And you look at our particular universe, obviously, if you could derive a contradiction, if you say, hey, if our universe is good and then it's not, then you wouldn't believe in it. And this isn't exactly that. But there's a funny thing about our particular universe, which is that it will eventually forget everything that happened in it. It's forgetting its past, and it will eventually forget its entire past.
I'm sorry, Luke.
And I can get into that. We can talk about that later.
I think you said,
but if that's true,
if our universe is good, then it's not. But also you said the universe will forget. I don't think the universe is capable of forgetting. I don't think it's capable of knowing.
Well, what I mean by it forgetting is when you get to the end of our universe, right? There won't be information in it about what particular path that it took. When you get to the heat death of the universe,
so
if it ends in a heat death, that's the same heat death as any other possible universe. So you can't say that anything in particular happened in its past. I get it. So yeah. So the thing is, then when you are making a choice in that universe to believe in following this or not following in this, eventually you will have never made that choice because you will get to a point in the future where that choice doesn't exist in the past of the universe, or can't be.
If I make a choice, whether or not I make a choice is not in any way contingent upon whether or not a billion years from now anybody knows I made a choice. That's just false.
Yeah, it's not. But the universe is the thing, like that. That choice will have never happened.
It's so weird that you can say something. It's so weird that you can say something, and I can point out that it's false, and your answer is yeah. If it's false, why'd you say it?
Well, because I didn't say that people will care about it. That's not the thing that matters.
That's not what I said either.
There are people around to care about it.
That's not what I said either.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I misunderstood. I apologize.
If I make a choice today, and in a billion years nobody remembers it, that does not mean the choice didn't happen.
Sure, but if the universe doesn't,
the universe can't.
Every atom in the universe.
What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about if the universe doesn't?
So if every atom in the universe is in the same configuration, is in going the same direction, is in the same spot as if you had made that choice and didn't make that choice, then you would have to be guessing if you were at that point in the universe, whether that choice.
I'm so fucking done. It's all you, Paul. I couldn't give a fuck about this stupid shit.
Are you saying the trivially true thing that when there's no longer evidence of a thing, that there will no longer be evidence of the thing?
Yes.
Essentially, yes, because the past doesn't.
Thanks for the tautology.
Okay, we don't say that the past existed.
You waited for an hour and 25 minutes to state a tautology that is just as pointless as every other tautology.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to do that. I understand why it seems that way.
Well, then you're godlike because you're achieving it without even fucking trying. That's amazing. An hour and a half to say nothing.
No, I'm not. I'm presenting that as and you believe that's true then, right? Like you're taking that claim that it will forget eventually all the atoms.
No, but you know you're personifying forgetting, right? Like that's not you're now personifying the universe. You're just saying that there will no longer be evidence that a new observer could tell. But that's
that anything happened. Yeah, exactly.
But that does not mean that things didn't. That in no way is similar to saying that those things didn't happen.
Meanwhile,
well, I mean, it kind of.
Meanwhile, if anything happens and it contributes to the future state of the universe, you can't even say that there's a future state of the universe that would be identical if it didn't happen. So you're not only trying to pretend that it didn't happen, you don't even have a justification for saying that the future is going to be the same whether it happened or not.
Well, I mean, that's the point of all the heat deaths of this.
It's not the point of the heat death. Not all fucking heat death models are the same. If I send a spacecraft into space, that's an action I took. And as that spacecraft continues going, it will impact other things in the universe. And that will change what eventually happens when heat death occurs.
But that heat death is indistinguishable from the heat death of the universe where you didn't send the rocket in space.
Oh my God,
because
fuck
that
off.
information is gone.
Nope, we're done. We're moving on to a calling it now, or Cus I Wanna. I am not doing a tautology in the last 10 seconds of the fucking show about, yes, but there'll be nobody there to see it or know about. Correct. We don't fucking care. This is dumber than a sack of hammers. Whew. Hey, Paul.
Hey, I hope you had a lovely afternoon.
I did not have a lovely afternoon. I had a bunch of fraudulent fake callers and people who wouldn't answer the question, but that's all right, because that's my cross to bear. And I'll be selling shards and samples of that cross to gullible people all over the world. You can get your sample of Matt's cross at www.chokeonit.com. Oh, actually, I don't even know if that's a real thing. I shouldn't give a website out. Anyway, patreon.com/call the line.
Yeah, thanks to our mods. And our